bit of actual location shooting and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But it's so far like few and far between in some of these movies. Like I mean, Godzilla Kong like was one of those movies where I really kind of noticed it. I'm like, I haven't seen a human being for at least 20 minutes.
I didn't care about any of the human beings in that movie.
No.
No, could not give a shit about what they were doing. I was just like, give me the dinosaurs, give me monsters, give me
Give
all
me
this shit, and then
monkey.
give me monkey, give me Mothra, give me it all. That's all I cared about, and I loved it.
The only human I cared about in those monster movies was Bryan Cranston, and then he died in that first movie.
Yeah.
In like the
Died-
first 20 minutes.
And with that, I say welcome to Geeks with Kids, the geeky parenting podcast. Something I said that totally wrong, and I don't even remember what it is anymore. But
It's a cold open. He doesn't know how to do it.
It's okay. It doesn't matter because this week we're gonna bamf back to the '90s and bamf back to the '90s and talk about X-Men '97. That's right. The iconic animated series of our childhood is back, and we cannot wait to jump into our danger room of conversation. Of discussion. I should have said danger room of discussion. They would have been the DD. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But anyways, joining me this week is Dave, Hawk, and Marcus. Hi guys. How's it
Hey.
going?
Hello.
Woo!
Good.
I really
We
hope
all
that there's audio.
simultaneously listen in our minds to the X-Men theme when Eric started talking.
Dun,
Is
dun,
that way
dun.
we
Oh,
were all
100%.
head-bobbing at the
Yep.
same
Dun,
time?
dun, 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 dun,
You don't know
dun,
how
dun,
hard it is
dun.
for me not to pop that on behind us while we're talking. And I know we would just
Oh.
get DMC striked all the way to hell if I did that.
Oh, I love it so much.
I would. And yeah, I love the new Duffler brother version. It's just so good. The keyboard synth that they used is a little bit different, but just different enough that it's so good. Oh,
I mean, without getting too far into this already, did they do anything wrong?
they did.
So-
And I have issues with the series, but they're not bad ones. But anyways, like we do normally,
Yeah.
we talk about things that we're excited about, what we're obsessing about, what we're like, what's our yum? I haven't said that in a long time. What's good? Let's start with Marcus. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It has been a
minute.
very long while. Yes, it has been quite a bit. I mean, I've just been doing a lot of 3D printing and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, just been working and doing that kind of thing. But what I have been catching up on a couple of TV shows. So there's been things that I've been trying to catch back up on. But realistically, the things that have excited me most recently and the most have been everything Godzilla related. So to put it into perspective, my daughter, 1.5 years old, her favorite thing now is kind of Godzilla.
Good.
Like my
That's amazing.
phone's background is this Neo kind of version of Godzilla,
Ooh.
and every time it pops up, she just goes. So she loves it. So because of that, I've been going heavy into the Godzilla. I just did a couple of Godzilla prints. I've caught up on all the movies, including some like really old retro terrible Godzilla movies.
I think you mean great.
They're great. They're great and awful. like they're like, come on, flying kicking Godzilla is amazing.
Did you do the Godzilla helmet?
I haven't done that yet. I need to print that. That's going to be on my list. One of my projects for the summer is I'm planning on sculpting a pretty large Godzilla bust to have on display. Like I want something big and I want it in my workshop or something. So that's going to be one of my big projects. But yeah, I mean, out of all of it, as I was mentioning earlier, Godzilla -1 has been my top contender for favorite Godzilla movie to date. Absolutely beautiful film, really awesome, great watch. And again, when you kind of step back and realize, I can't remember what the budget was. I think it was like 10 million or something
Like 50,
small.
I heard 15, like at the max.
So 15 million. I mean, you compare that to the giant big blockbuster, which is a good movie too. Godzilla Kong is awesome. But I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars put into this giant CG battle kind of thing. And then, this is where good storytelling and just allocating your resources properly really pays off. And Godzilla -1 just wins the day. So for anybody out there who's even contemplating seeing it or hasn't made the decision, do it. It's so damn good.
I can't wait. Did you watch the color version or the black and white version?
Ooh, you know what? I watched the color version, but I should watch the black and white version because I have both.
Yeah, yeah. I was debating which one to watch first, but I think I'm gonna do color and then watch black and
I
white.
think you'd want to do color first just to see like they did some really cool like dryish sepia kind of tones and stuff like that. Like there's some good color choices in the movie itself. Because it kind of gives you that kind of feeling of that old World War
Nice,
kind
yeah.
of feeling footage almost, like it's awesome. Oh, I want to watch it again. I literally want to watch it again right now.
Like I remember watching, was it The Mist? Is that what it was called? Yeah, The Mist.
The Stephen King story.
Yeah, the Stephen King movie. And
Yes.
they had a black and white version that came out like much later and was so much better. Like so much
Yeah.
better.
I could see that for sure.
Yeah.
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 That movie is still like the worst ended movie I've ever seen.
I
love
love
the
the
ending.
ending.
Oh,
Yes.
And do it.
oh, it's
Oh.
awful.
Oh,
So
perfect.
awful.
Perfect. Hawk, what are you liking?
The thing that's got my interest right now is the second season of Outer Range is out now on Prime, which was a big shock because it kind of came out of nowhere, and I didn't even know they would follow up the first season. Like the first season took place in 2022. Heard pretty much nothing about it. Loved the first season, but it's went under the radar for a lot of people, and then all of a sudden, bam, we get season 2's out. Awesome. I watched the
Wow.
first 2 episodes of it so far. For those who don't know, it involves Josh Brolin playing Royal Abbott, one of the last old school cowboys. They own this huge, like acres and acres of cattle ranch, and he finds a gigantic hole in the middle of it, and the hole has basically no bottom, and has. Eric hasn't seen it, so I don't want to say too much about it, but it has special powers.
That's fair.
But it at the heart of it is like this is a family drama. It involves like he has a rival, and this guy Tillerson in that, played by what's that guy's name? The actor. He's been in like a million things. Let me look that up quick. I think it's Will Patton.
Yeah, let's go with that. Let's just
Yeah.
I'm trying to look it up right now. I'm trying to see. Like,
Yeah, that's him, Will Patton. He plays his rival, this Tillerson. He's trying to take the land because he knows there's something special out there, and that Abbott's trying to keep all to himself. So if you get a chance, you get a little bored, check it out. It's a really good show.
Nice. I will have to check it out, but I'm going through a rewatch or not a rewatch, a current watch, as you know. Dave, what are you
Yeah.
liking right now?
I could talk about a lot of things. I think X Defiant, the new Ubisoft shooter that dropped last night, or yesterday, I suppose. I keep people like, oh, it's a COD killer, blah blah blah. That's all, hype. It's fun, man. It's a little bit of Overwatch. It's a little bit of just normal gunplay, first person shooter, 6v6 team, so it's not very big.
Nice.
Just like stupidly fun. Like I thought I'll just give it a shot, play a little bit, and I don't know, played for 2-3 hours last night and just had a great time. It's free. It's on, like all the next gen stuff. And it's fully crossplay and fully cross progression,
What?
which games don't
Wait,
seem
a
to have.
Ubisoft game has done this?
Yeah. It's like the most unlikely. It's also been released like 6 times, and they keep unreleasing it. They're like, oh, we got to push this date, we push that date, and after obviously people are going to be pretty hyped for Assassin's Creed Shadows, especially after we just had Rise of the Ronin and Shogun. Because if you think of like the Englishman to Nobunaga, Sasuke is the foreign samurai that Oda Nobunaga has, and those are like the two guys. Those are the two guys. That do the whole thing. Even though he's not in Shogun, but
he had his own anime on Netflix a couple years ago.
Yeah, there's a ton of sick stuff.
It's
around the character.
fantastic. Yeah,
He's a really interesting character. But yeah, obviously there's no assassins in the game. So the game it's 4 factions from like current era, I guess you'd call it, Ubisoft games. So it's got people from the Division. It's got the cleaners, so like the flamethrower guys from the Division, who are pretty funny. Like they have like a drone that shoots napalm.
They had that in the game.
Yes,
Well, that's just like that's your E in the game. It's like you can pick. So when the game start, like everybody uses 4 factions. So there's them. You pick from one of 2 abilities for every faction, and then your loadout's like whatever your loadout. It's kind of like Call of Duty. Like pick a rifle, pick a pistol. There's no perks. There's just a faction. You can play as dissect. I think you have to unlock them though.
Oh,
And
well, that
they
makes
have, like,
sense.
or you can you pay fucking $15 or whatever. You can get the whole thing. But
No.
I'm not gonna bother. I don't care. They have a spider drone that like attaches to people and stuns them or whatever, or you can hack people. You can play as the Phantoms, which is what I play a lot as it from Ghost Recon.
Yeah.
They have like a wall that like stops bullets. It's basically the shield from Halo, right? That like you can shoot through, but they can't shoot through. Or you can have a ballistic shield, which I just use and camp in a corner because there's like capture the flag and stuff or whatever. King of the Hill. And then what's the other team? What's the last property? There's
Echelon.
Echelon, right? So it's not Sam Fisher, and they can go invisible or they can just wall hack. So these things have cooldowns. It's fun.
Apparently,
the wall hack-
Libertad is supposed to be in there as well.
Oh, they are. Yeah, they're like the healers.
What?
I don't know why.
That makes no sense at all.
They're what are they? Is that from
Far Cry
That's Far Cry
6.
4? 6.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. I don't know. I hear Libertad and I think it's the Ghost Recon Wildlands because the bad guys are also South American and like Spanish. But I can't remember their name, but they have a similar. Anyway, yeah, those guys are like healers. They have like an AoE heal and like
Ooh, that's what
they're
I would
fine.
like. I like healing
they're fine.
classes.
They have like a thing you just drop or like and they have like passive healing that's higher too, I think. But you like regenerate health like a Call of Duty game, so if you stay out of combat for a bit.
Man, I would pick DeadSec as well. I guess they're more of a hacking type.
Well, so the way you unlock things in the game is like, you can level up. It takes forever to level up your stuff. It feels like I'm not a great player, so I'm not like unlocking things super fast. And it's not like get 100 kills. It's like deal 10,000 damage with an LMG, you get the next LMG.
Mhm.
So to unlock a different character, I unlocked another character playing as the Phantoms because I just played enough as a character basically. But there's things like, get 100 kills or whatever. Or no, it's like deal 10,000 damage with your LMG to unlock whatever thing, skins and stuff like that. So if you want to unlock certain things, you can just like find the thing you want to unlock and then do that play style, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's free. And it runs on a potato. I couldn't believe it. My CPU is a 6700, not even a 6700K, and that's that's just above recommended. So this is like a 10-year-old processor, 11, something like that. And I have a 3060, which is which is fine. But like I couldn't believe, and I get like 130 on like ultra. I'm getting like 100 frames per second.
That's insane.
So it runs on everything. So yeah, I don't know. I had a lot of fun.
I'm gonna have to try it out again. I was in the beta last year, so it was fun then. If not janky as shit, like a Ubisoft beta is, but
Some people apparently were having server issues. Like I read a bunch of weird things. People were like, "Oh, it's as bad as Payday," blah blah blah. And I'm like, I had 0 server issues. It felt like as long to get into a Call of Duty lobby. It takes like 3 minutes to get into a lobby, and then a game's like 10-15 minutes. So that's a pretty good cooldown time. You shouldn't be playing for an hour straight with a 2-second cooldown. Like you should, probably take a break.
Yeah.
But some people couldn't connect at all, I guess. Because Ubisoft, I mean,
Yeah, that's fair.
servers aren't always great. But I had, other than the game crashing to desktop randomly, without warning. But that was never during a match. It was always at the end of a match.
At the end
So
of
I
the
was like,
match,
well,
but-
I'll go get some water or something. That's fine. I'll just load the game up and walk away. I don't know. Like,
sounds good.
and I usually don't have fun playing these games by myself. I usually have to play with other people. I was playing by myself, and I had,
Interesting.
yeah.
I'll have to install it, but I have such a big backlog. Such a big backlog of video games. As none of those reviews have come out that I said last time.
Oh dear.
They're slowly getting edited. I have had auditions and
I have
crap.
a script for mine. I haven't done anything. with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I'm so looking forward to your thoughts on MLB.
It's actually quite funny.
How about The Last of Us? When do we?
The Last of Us is actually
Is that one out?
No. It's that one
okay.
is a. It's hard because that one was like, I love the game already. Everyone knows that has ever listened to this, and I'm just like, well, it's that game, but prettier. but not much funnier because it only came out a couple of years ago. So it's that. That's pretty much it. Anyway, for me, I am currently watching Yellow Jackets for the first time. It's about a team of female soccer players, high school soccer players that end up crashing in the Canadian wilderness. They were going where were they going? I can't remember where. They crashed in BC somewhere in the Rockies, and then some crazy shit happens, and
This
then
says they crash in Ontario.
they don't crash in Ontario. That is a lie.
It's definitely not. You don't quite know where they are. They don't know where the hell they are.
But there's definitely the Rockies there.
And they
Yeah,
were
we
Those
don't have
Ontario
mountains here,
Rockies.
so-
they were missing for 18 months.
Yeah, they were gone for 18 months, 18 or 19 months. I can't remember what it was.
Around 18 months, but basically
Yeah.
a lot happens in that.
Yeah.
And it reconnects with them, like, the show pivots between them, like when they crashed versus them in their like mid 40s.
Yeah.
And all this stuff that happened and that they were trying not to, let the world find out what had happened starts coming back to haunt them.
Hasn't Hawk been talking about us to watch the show?
Yeah, that's why I
for,
started.
like,
That's why I
Just the band.
started. I finally started watching it because Hawk told me, and then I blazed through the first season, and I'm halfway through the second season now, and it's amazing. The mystery in the current age is so good, and I can't talk about it because I don't want to ruin it for anyone. The soundtrack is brilliant because it's the soundtrack of our youths.
Mm-hmm. The 90s.
So
Yeah, it's set in 96.
96.
Or-
So
Yeah.
the music is so good, and then when they like the current age, they're listening to music from the 90s and like the early 2000s. So you're just like, well, they're just playing all of my favorite songs, just all of them, the whole time. So the last couple of weeks, I've just been listening to the Yellow Jackets soundtrack, and it's phenomenal. There are songs there I
Yeah.
totally forgot about, and I was like, yes, I do love "See
And-
There" by Veruca Salt.
Yeah, and the theme song for the show was actually co-written by Craig Wedren, who used to be in this 90s band Built to Spill.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, they were very much an indie band, so
It
never
sounds
really
like an indie song. It's
Yeah,
It's an actual good song for the theme song. Oh man.
Yeah.
The visuals are just so good. When they start this is not a spoiler. They start eating each other as teenagers because, it
Oh,
comes-
the
They're stranded
first
in
five
the wilderness.
Yeah.
first 5 minutes of the show, but it get like when you see them in that, the first 5 minutes is them hunting somebody in that. They
Yeah.
fall into a trap, and then like you see them in that they've started to wear animal skins and that.
Yeah.
There is like a ritualism to everything, and it's in a lot of ways they're being guided to do this by an
It-
unknown force.
Oh my god, you're giving me goosebumps because the show's so fucking good. Except I can't watch it all the time because it gets a little bit intense. So I've also been
Mhm.
watching Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, that musical show. But now that show's gotten really intense. So I'm just like, I don't have anything. I don't have
Like
anything.
X-Men's been intense. What the hell are you supposed to watch?
I don't
Or it's
know.
Just, like,
I don't
soothing?
know.
Where's
But-
the Bob Ross Twitch stream?
Oh yeah, that's still there, isn't it? When Twitch, decides to play video, right? Right, Twitch, right? We don't.
Not
we
when
don't.
you're dual streaming.
Apparently. Anyway, let's talk about X-Men 97 because
Yeah.
it just came back, and I should have written down when it came back, but I didn't. It was just a couple months ago. X-Men 97. It premiered on
February.
March
31st.
20th. March 20th, 2024. And this continues off the 90s TV show, the 1994 television show.
92.
92 because there's 5 seasons. You're right.
Mhm.
And this would be 97, so this would be season 6. Basically, this picks off directly where the last season ends off, with Charles Xavier fighting for his life after a failed assassination attempt. I guess it is failed because he didn't die. So he leaves the planet with the Shi'ar Empire, and that leaves Cyclops and the rest of the X-Men sort of trying to figure out how to live out his dream of, fighting for humanity, even though humanity seems to be against them and fears them. And then we find out at the end of the first episode that Magneto is the one that needs to lead them because Charles left everything to him. What a fucking amazing first episode. Anyway,
Yo, it's so good.
this season really does some interesting things. What did you think about how they they decide to pick up straight from the previous season. Like literally, it felt like
honestly,
a week.
so damn happy that it's just a straight continuation. And I mean, they did a really good job, like making it feel kind of seamless. Like there's a little bit of bumpiness in there. There's a few character voices that you're just like, that's not bad.
Some
But,
people have
oh my God.
aged.
Some people have aged to the point where it's like, ooh, that doesn't sound like the same voice. And then you look it up and like, oh shit, it is. But I love the fact that it's just like immediately after, because I still remember watching X-Men and just like the atrociousness of it, of being like, is it over? It can't be over. This can't be finished. And then suddenly it was just not a thing for my Saturday mornings or whatever it was. And here we are as adults, and it's picked up. Not only that, it's picked up perfectly into the phase that we're at now. Like it works now at our level, and it works so perfectly at our level, and it's what it should have been for so long. But it just so good.
What's
So
funny
good.
is that you're saying it's at our level, but even the older cartoon, the themes are pretty heavy.
They were, but I mean, like I still remember being a kid watching that and just kind of being like, this is still a cartoon.
Yep.
But it did make me feel like I'm watching something a little bit more meaningful.
Yeah.
I'm watching something with a little bit more substance to it.
100%.
I didn't know how to articulate that. I didn't know how to say that at the time, but like I could tell that I'm like, well, this is kind of good shit.
This is special. This is special.
This is special. Yeah.
Hawk, Dave?
You want to go first, or should I?
No, you can
Well,
go. You can go.
Okay,
Yeah, you're the
so-
most recent of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Animated.
I made a commitment. I never watched it as a kid, and that I was kind of like I was a teen at that time, and that so Saturday morning cartoons were out for me. But this I made a priority because the chats would not stop going on about how great it was. My brother and he ended up watching it before me, and he was like, "This is really good." And he never watched it back in the day either. So I thought before I'm going to get into this, I'm going to go through all 5 seasons first. So I did. And I gotta say, it had, it's like the animation was always a little off for that. The dialogue, and the one-liners, were corny. But the fact that they were drafting off of Chris Claremont's work from 75 to 92 for the main storylines, I was like, this is amazing. I know these stories, and they're doing a pretty damn good job telling them in the small spaces that they were, the limited time frames. So I managed to get through that. I kind of second screened the last half and that, but once I jumped into the new series, I got it. I understood. It's this was a lot of people's childhoods, but now it's viewed through that lens of animation that we as adults appreciate more, and that it's that's that influence of anime, and that's is in this new one. It's just perfectly adds to the tone of everything. The action's dynamic, the color's great, and it's shockingly one of the best written series in that of the past year.
I'll wait that till later. I was like, we're actually going to talk about that episode. But yeah, Dave.
So yeah, I have a weird relationship maybe because my dad made us watch this show. Every Saturday morning, our whole family, all 7 of us, sat down and watched this show. So I would have been with 92. I would have been 4.
Yeah,
and my brothers, would have been 11, 12. And but even my sisters liked X-Men. My sister was like, "Oh, Rogue's my favorite character," blah blah blah, and whatever. We all had our favorite character, and obviously my brothers and I, we all grew up to be huge nerds. And but my dad wanted us to watch this show. He recognized how good it was, I guess, at the time. Because as far as I know, he was never a comic book guy. He never read we never had comic books in the house. And so, Hawk, to your point of where it kind of rehashed 72 to 92 in comics, this is how kids like me got away with not reading comics but knowing the stories because of this show. So people would talk about X-Men and be like, "Oh yeah, I know that story," but I never read the comic. I just saw the show. So, yeah, it was weird. Yeah, and like you said, it just ended one day.
Yeah.
And it's that ephemeral memory of like because I was in 92, 97 I was like 9, so I was still watching Saturday morning cartoons. I watched all of the Jason shows. I watched Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four, Avengers. I watched all of those shows when they aired.
Spider-Man.
Obviously, Spider-Man the animated series, one of my favorite shows growing up. And Spider-Man did the same thing where it rehashed a lot of stuff from the comics. But
Wait,
I
sorry.
kept-
Hawk, did you watch the Spider-Man animated series?
I watched.
He would have been.
Do you remember Spider-Man? I think it was Spider-Man and Friends back in the 80s.
No, yeah. Not
Oh,
that one. I meant the 90s one.
No, the 90s one. No,
The 90s was the one that had the first CG intro for a show, and they had that sick electric guitar.
The-
Yep.
It was what's his name from Aerosmith who played the guitar for that?
Oh, really?
Joe Perry.
Joe Perry, yeah. He was a big
Really?
Spider-Man fan, so
It's sick. That's another sick. It's not as good as X-Men, but it's good.
yeah.
It's good.
But oh frig, where was I? Oh right. So I've been trying to tell people, because I was obviously very excited when the show came out. I was trying to tell people, I'm like, when I started watching it, I was like, oh my god, it's the only thing. Like we lost Indiana Jones, right? Like we kind of lost Star Wars. Like those things aren't really for us. This show is for us. It's not, but like you could kind of show it to kids. I maybe wouldn't, because like there was blood, and I was like, they can't. There's no blood in X-Men. Like they can't do that. I was like, then that was that moment. I was like, this show is for us. Like it's actually for us, the fans of that show.
Mhm.
They weren't trying to like pull in another audience. They were just like, hey, we took the thing you love and we didn't change it. We just updated it a little bit and made it look better and maybe sound better in some ways. And so the animation isn't, obviously it's better, but it's not so far away that it feels different. It feels the same. I was like, how does it feel the same? Like it's been 30 years. How does it feel the same?
Yeah. It's insane.
It's such a feat. I don't understand. Yeah, I've been in awe this whole time.
Mhm.
Been amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
For sure. First, like for me, I was a giant DC fan. Growing up, like I love Superman. Superman's my favorite comic book character.
I mean, Batman the animated series,
and then
Superman the
Batman
animated series. Like these things are all like right there, right?
Yeah. So when Batman came out, I was like, oh shit, I'm still gonna keep on the DC train. And I love that I used to collect all the remember that they had cards that you had as a kid, comic book cards. And then X-Men came out, and I was like, oh, what's this? And I hadn't read Marvel comics really at that point. Like I'd seen Spider-Man and whatnot. And then X-Men really got me into Marvel. Not enough to be like, fuck DC. But enough to be like, well, I guess I'm going to start collecting the Marvel cards now. So now I have those. And that's how I didn't read any of the X-Men comics, obviously. But because they were adapting such famous storylines in the early 90s, I went to my library and I would borrow the graphic novels and just like watch them, read them that way. Which was really good because also had no money as a kid. So I couldn't buy these growing up. And then when this came out, I remember seeing the trailer for it and being like, holy fuck. Are they actually gonna do it? Like, is this how they're gonna do it? And you have a worry as a kid, as a grown up. You're like, this is something we loved growing up. And then I saw.
Yeah, don't ruin it.
Don't ruin it, please. And then I saw the
Is
first.
it going to turn into Transformers? Is it going to, like?
I like the first Transformers movie.
I didn't. And that's it.
and then I saw the first episode at Fan Expo. They were showing it like the whole weekend, and I was like, holy fuck, this is so good. And like I so wanted to bring my daughter to see it, and I was like, do I want to show her the first series first? And I was like, oh fuck it, she can go with her mom right now. I'm gonna go watch this again. But it was amazing watching it with all these like adults that had grown up with it, because you could see it in their eyes. They're like, oh my god, they made my childhood again, and they made it good. And people are like, this is the best Marvel property in years, and I can't argue that.
Maybe it's the best thing they've ever done, though.
I can't argue with that.
Endgame is insane, but there's like missteps leading up to it. This show just felt like it's.
Like I said, I feel like they did nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is.
You could disagree with some plot aspects, maybe, but you can't say that they're wrong to do it, right?
Yeah.
What's funny is that I jumped all over my first two sections on this outline, but that's okay because it doesn't matter. The nostalgia is super real in this. Well, I'm gonna move that character dynamics thing a little bit lower, because that doesn't matter. It's same with the human stakes. We'll talk about that later. The like we were saying earlier, the bringing the animation into a modern style, but also keeping it in stylistically like the original one was such a smart choice. There's a documentary right now called Marvel Assembled. It's on Disney Plus, and it talks about the making of X-Men 97. It came out today. So if you haven't seen it, I don't blame you because it came out today. And they're talking about how even just looking at the intro, they had to update it, right? So they add new musicians, but the animation style is pretty much the same. But there's a sequence where you see Rogue flipping a Sentinel, and it's a new dynamic version of it. The thing about that sequence is that that's what they originally wanted to do on the TV show, but they couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford the animation to make it look like that, so they just did it the way that they did it then. So when it came to this era where they're like, have Marvel throwing money at him, it's like, fuck, we're gonna do everything we wanted to do, and they made it all look the same. Like the adaptation, the faithfulness is so good. I know we touched upon the voice actors, but what did you think about the majority of the cast coming back? There are certain people that didn't come back. Some people have died. The Jubilee actress chose not to play Jubilee again because she wanted it to go to an Asian actress, which I respect.
I think that was actually a good call.
Yeah, and she actually sounds like Jubilee from the original series, so it didn't bother me at all.
Also, big respect to boomers letting like millennials and Gen X have jobs.
For sure. What are your thoughts of the cast coming back to voice their characters?
I mean, they couldn't have replaced Wolverine, right? Like you can't. No one. I don't think anyone. Maybe no one's capable of replicating Cal Dodd's voice the way he does it. Like, I think we would have noticed.
But even now, like he has changed it a bit because he doesn't.
It's better.
Yeah, I like it too.
It's better. He's more gravelly.
He doesn't have the same that same like
power behind it.
Yeah, he doesn't have the same power, but that's a good thing, you know. Like especially there's that part. Again, I don't want to get too far into any of the episodes or anything, but like, there's a part where
you can talk about it.
There's a part where he's referencing like wars past that he's been a part of and everything, and just so having that like age to his voice just gave it so much more power behind it. You know, like that was a beautiful thing.
Let him be old in that moment.
I really loved that. Yeah.
Any other thoughts, Hawk, Dave? I mean, they got. So the actress who plays Rogue is an MP from out east.
Newfoundland?
Yeah, I think it's Newfoundland. And they got her out of that to come back and voice Rogue. Like she was already sort of winding down her political career.
Not a small role either, right?
No,
she's in like every episode.
Yeah.
And the stuff that she does is quite intense, and she hasn't acted since then. So the fact that she came back and just killed it.
Yeah.
Her remember it in the last episode gives me goosebumps. Like I'm getting goosebumps right now.
I rewatched that scene earlier today because I wanted.
His name was Remy. So
what have you done to us?
That being said, I don't think anyone.
Amazing.
We're so
Gambit was originally Chris Potter, who was on Kung Fu Legend Continues, a show I watched every Sunday with my family.
Damn straight.
And his kids played hockey with my cousins here in Hamilton. And my sister met him one time and was like, "Oh my god, I loved you as Gambit." And then they were at a bar and he's like, "How old are you?" And he immediately felt so old in that moment because she was like, "I grew up watching you on TV." And I guess I'm guessing he's almost 60 now or something like that. He probably can't do the voice of Gambit as well anymore. I don't know. I didn't see anything. He didn't seem to say anything about why. But they got AJ LaCostia, who's done a bunch of stuff. He's a really good impressionist. And I thought he did a great Gambit. I thought he was wonderful. Mm-hmm. And obviously Chris Potter as Cable, because I don't know what happened to the original Cable actor, but I thought he was a great Cable.
Yeah. Yeah, all the
I really liked. I had to look up his name. So Chris Britton was the voice of Mr. Sinister,
Mm.
and I remember as a kid watching the show, and Mr. Sinister scared the shit out of me, but I just loved that that magnetic robotic tone to his voice and everything.
Yeah.
And then I've actually just like upon seeing that it was the same actor coming back doing the thing, and I'm just like, oh, cool. I watched him do some things, and I'm like, this guy's fucking terrifying in his own right. Like he's just awesome. So shout out to Chris Britton because fuck, that's awesome. I loved him.
and I know there's a very one of Hawk's, I don't want to say favorite actors, but I think one of his favorite impressionists is on this show playing Professor X.
Oh, Ross Marquand.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know you're a
Yeah.
big fan of his work.
I do like his work. Yes. Yeah. He was great as the Skull and that. So it's like this is just another good property for him to really get attached to. A great character. My God, he gets to
Is
play
he-
Charles Xavier.
Is he just gonna be like Marvel's like go-to guy? Like, we need a voice. We need somebody to replace
Right.
somebody. Get Mark,
need you.
Ross Marquand on the phone.
Yeah, he's like
He's
like
incredible.
he was perfect as Professor X. He sounded exactly like him, which is crazy. He's like
So I'm not. Do you guys remember the day like you were watching History Network one day and you just heard Professor X's voice and you were like, "What the hell?" Because that guy did like all of their documentaries for so long, and then I guess he's retired now because he's like 97.
yeah, that's
And
fair.
I was like, because when he didn't
Oh,
come back, I
Cedric
was like, well,
Smith.
they got all these other guys, and I was like, oh yeah, to be fair, that guy's been working forever, and also like, yeah, he's like 97, so let him retire.
80.
So Ross Marquand is going to be on Marvel. Sam Witwer is going to do all of Star Wars.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that sounds about right.
So they just need one
So-
person for each of the
I wonder
properties.
if Ross Marquand knows as much about Marvel or X-Men as
Sam,
Starkiller knows about Star Wars.
no one knows more about Star Wars than Sam Witwer. He corrected
Yeah, Dave
Filoni.
Dave
Filoni.
Filoni on
I
something.
know.
Yeah.
Ross Marquand could get such huge cred if he just came out and be like, "Well, actually, I corrected Bo DeMaio on this." What
And then Bo DeMaio. No, I was gonna say that.
I corrected Kevin Feige on this thing. Feige's never been wrong before.
There's one actor I do want to point out that he's new and he plays Bastion. It's Theo James. I thought his portrayal of Bastion was so cold and just like killer, like just way better than any of his live action roles, to be honest.
This one fucked me up a bit because like Theo James was like, I know that name and that, and I
Yeah.
thought it was somebody else at first, and then I looked it up, and it's like this was the guy from the New Gentleman series on Netflix.
Yep.
and
He's
he
in
played
so
the
many
lead.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
He-
it's like I still can't quite equate the voice in that. He really came up with a unique voice for the character for the show
Mhm.
because it sounds like nothing like him.
It's chilling. It's just
Yeah.
chilling. He was also really good in Castlevania. I don't know if you guys watched the Castlevania
Yeah.
anime.
I watched the first two seasons.
He also played young Vesemir on The Witcher, if that helps.
Okay.
In the animated.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That animated, I keep telling you, the first half of that animated whatever of the wolf is so boring, and the second half is like
It's
10
really
times worth the first. It's so good.
It is so good. Just play on your phone in the first bit, and then. Oh, by the way, I don't know if anyone saw the Witcher news today. They released the first footage of
Was it footage? Did
Footage.
they release actual
footage of Liam
I'll
Hemsworth.
do what the Siri actress said is that I'll give him a chance. I'm still not going to like it because it's not Henry Cavill.
I
but
still
I'll
haven't
give him
watched
a
the last
chance.
season, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So we talked about how the series has sort of updated to us at our age range. What did you think of the new character arcs and how mature, especially episode 5, got for like it was devastating. Like there are times in this show where I was shocked. Like I just sat there and I was like, why is this?
I watched. I pretty much binged the first couple episodes, including all the way up to Remember It, all pretty much at once, and it was
Good Lord, man.
it was like 2:00 in the morning, and that episode just ended, and I wasn't. There was no other episode after. So I had to wait, and I still remember just staring at the TV screen. I had my dogs on my lap, and I just didn't know how to process it, and I just kind of like looked around. I'm like, no, no,
No.
no, no,
No.
and like I legitimately was in tears. I didn't know what to do. I was just I was so like
Yeah.
I like I've never been like so instantly crushed by something so quickly. Like, oh, it hurt.
I think
It
we dropped
legitimately hurt.
right now is when we go. If you haven't watched it, you gotta watch it because I think from now on it could be. It's definitely spoiler
Oh, yeah,
territory.
yeah.
Because I think we
Yeah,
have to start
yeah.
saying something
Yeah.
here. Like,
Yeah. No, we can't
because
keep
holy
being.
fuck.
Yeah,
So you've
no,
been
yeah,
warned. If
okay.
you haven't
So
watched
this is it. This is it. You're now warned.
Yeah.
Um,
Because
like,
he's not like that character is a fucking joke to so many people, including in the comics. And he was kind
Yeah.
of a joke in the old show, right? Not like Morph. Morph was like clearly a joke.
Mm.
Yeah.
But
And Morph
Gambit,
is awesome this season.
But Gambit, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, we love Gambit. Like he's so silly, blah blah blah. Like, you know, he's never cool. Like some people think he's cool, but he's like 90s cool, so he's not really cool.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
are you talking about? 90s school is awesome.
The 90s.
Bo DeMeo was talking about how this is obviously a famous Claremont episode or issue from E's Extinction, I believe, that run. But at that point, Genosha was sort of a haven for terrorists. So when it happened, when it was destroyed, people were like, oh, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But Bo DeMeo was talking about how he remembers when 9/11 happened, and it was in this place of hope, and just the world changed after that moment. And he wanted this in X-Men because he knew he wanted us to feel
good fucking call. Like, holy shit.
Didn't he also talk a lot about how because he used to frequent a nightclub that got shot up?
Yeah.
Right? Like it was that same feeling of like because especially in the early in like the X-Men movies in like the 90s or sorry, the 2000s where it was an allegory for being gay.
Yeah.
Which is not obviously wasn't so much in the comics, but just being different. And then that's why that club was shot up because
Yeah, he wanted that to feel. So that's why he made Genosha such a haven for, like, we saw how much of a utopia Genosha had been because we had seen it in previous seasons and it was still sort of like shitty. But at this point, when you see it in 97, it's just like an amazing place and it just gets fucking decimated.
What are those characters? I'm blanking on their names.
The Morlocks?
The Morlocks, yes. Oh my god, like that crushed me too. That was so like they're like, oh, we won't be. They don't care about us, and then like Magneto comes in and trying to save them all. I'm like, holy shit! Like,
that moment in that when he realizes all hope is lost in that, and it's like part of him reverts back to being in the camps as a small child, looking at Bleach and that and afraid.
Yeah,
that's why he spoke German.
He forgets all of his English. He just goes back to that moment. We're gonna talk about this more in depth when we get into the episode highlights in the end. But I also updating to the modern world. There's a lot of talk about Morph and Wolverine because their friendship has always been, you know.
Will they? Won't
will
they?
Will they? Won't they? And in this season, it's way more apparent that Morph has feelings for Wolverine, and maybe Wolverine feels it back. We don't know because Wolverine doesn't really show his emotions. He might feel a picture of Jean Grey.
He was raised 300 years ago. He doesn't know.
He hasn't. His emotions have not aged. And then, what do you think of this updated romance between Morph and Wolverine? I love it, to be honest.
I think it's great because it's realistic, it's subtle, it's real life. It's just like, you know, there might be something there and there might be even a tiny bit of reciprocation, but we don't need to get into it. We don't have to hit it over the head with a hammer. Like, it's just there. Let's let it just be. Morph is, you know, he is the person that he is. Wonderful. I love the Morph character. I love what they've brought Morph back as.
The most powerful character on the team.
Yeah. Damn straight.
Shit. If he could turn into the fucking Hulk and like have the strength of the Hulk, I'm like, is there no stopping him? Can he just do whatever?
I think he can only mimic like physical attributes. I don't think he can
I
do
think
like
he can also only do it for so long. Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's fair.
not
Probably, yeah,
unlimited.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still pretty fucking cool.
But what
But-
I would say, I think it's nice to see Wolverine, not it's not Jean Grey,
Yeah.
which the series harped on so much, and like it's just this weird like this is never gonna happen, and not like his Mariko, his ex-wife, right?
Yep.
Just to be like, let's do something else with this character, because I think canonically, like in the comics, Wolverine is not straight at all.
he does whatever.
Like he doesn't care. And Morph isn't like even Morph is
Is-
whatever Morph wants to be.
Morph is literally non-binary.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So it's just like, I mean, I thought you think it'd be hilarious to watch like the people come out of the woodwork and be like, "Why are you ruining with your politics?" And it's like, it's not. That's just who the characters are, man. Like it's who they've always been. It's just we haven't had a chance to see it in this show yet, and it was great. Like
It goes right back to the first episode of the animated series, and
Yeah.
that when Morph is basically like,
why
thinks
does he
he's
care
dead.
so much?
He cared.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went out of his way, and then like when Morph was like turned by Mr. Sinister, and that it was like Wolverine was the one. He wouldn't give up on him.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wolverine has like no other friends either, right? Like
Yeah, pretty
it's,
much.
it's Morph and Jean, and even Jean's not really a friend. Maybe we'll see. Anyway,
Well, I mean, like
Yeah.
this they had
yeah,
they
because
had
you
that
think
moment.
Wolverine would be like, "Oh, you don't want Madeline Pryor." Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
who knows?
that's the Jean Grey we've known for a couple of years. What's the problem? Wolverine knows a thing or two about clones.
Exactly. Oh man. That's we were talking about the Rogue and not the Rogue, the Cyclops,
Oh.
Jean and Wolverine love triangle, but this season takes a new little love triangle, which is Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit. And I know this was a thing in the comics, but I remember watching the first episode where it sort of got hinted at, and going to Twitter and being like, "Oh shit, the internet is angry." What do you think of this threesome happening?
I mean, to me, it kind of makes sense, but I mean, I don't know how the explanation of his magnetic power stopping her power from doing whatever. Like,
Would
I
you
don't
like
know.
a science answer?
It-
Nothing
I
ever
mean,
touches electrons, get in the way. So if he blocks his electrons, as far
Huh.
as they would
Sure.
feel like they're touching. I think he just puts a magnetic field around himself, so it feels like she's touching him.
Like
That,
Superman.
well, I think that's like
Yeah.
they've kind of said that, yeah. And I'm just like, okay, sure, yeah. I mean, that notwithstanding, it made sense. Like, because like when Magneto showed up, I'm like, I'm just kind of looking at him like, Magneto's kind of hella hot. What's going on? Shit, like
Yeah.
he just showed up, and I'm just like, look, they gave him, look at these lips, the eyes, the
hair.
I'm like, what the hell are they doing here? And then when they played the angle with their relationship, I'm like, oh, I get it.
I don't blame her.
I don't blame her. I mean, like, yeah, man, this is one of the most powerful mutants in the world, and he's into you. You
He's
guys can get
built
it
like
on.
Henry
Like,
Cavill, like
yeah,
Oh,
I'm just
God.
like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I've been pre-warned about it, and that our friend MC and the over at the other pod and that was talking about it. There was a little bit of a, is he too old for her, that kind of thing, and that. But honestly, I can't really pinpoint his age in this series, and that.
well, it's the
I
90s.
think they
Yes.
did that on purpose
he
to like
was a
make us
kid in the
forget.
40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he's
Well,
probably 50.
it actually does. Yeah,
He's
that
probably
does.
50, and she could be 40. Like
It's true.
She was
I think
She was a teenager, like a late teenager when they met during the Morlocks, and that was like 20 years prior. So
Okay.
she's like 30 probably.
Okay. At least 30s. Yeah, okay. So that's okay.
it would be, well, it is maybe in a modern lens it's a little, because in the 90s I don't think people would have complained, but maybe a modern lens of going like, well, when he met her, if she was in her teens and he was in his like 30s, right, that they call him a groomer, but it's also a cartoon and we don't really know anybody's age, and like,
But also when you factor in the fact that, like, she's been struggling with the fact that she can't physically touch anybody, suddenly it's like, oh, I can touch you. Yeah,
what
I'd
a
do that.
relief. What a
Yeah.
relief
Yeah,
that, just to be able to hug somebody, right?
Especially during
Yeah.
that time when they don't know if the professor is dead or not, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 And it's
So,
not
I
like
mean,
the
it kinda
Shi'ar
makes
actually
sense.
told any of them if he lived or not. Those
Yeah.
dicks.
They're just like,
Damn
we're
bird
taking him.
people.
What a weird revelation to be like, I'm sorry, you left us to live with bird people?
I mean, I mean, that's fair.
Bird people.
Bird people. Anyway, not only is there one love triangle in this season, there's also a second one between Scott, Jean, and Madeline prior. The the whole Goblin Queen storyline was very contentious back in the 90s. No one liked it from what I remember. I
Not
remember
even the writers,
yeah,
because they
yeah.
didn't want to do it.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
fair. What do you think of the this whole messy family situation, especially with the birth of Nate?
I'm really glad that the Goblin Queen episode was pretty short.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, I didn't want that dragged out for more of the season. I was just like, oh, come on. No, we're not doing this, are we? And they just kind of capped it real quick. And I was like, okay, good. I'm good. I can move on.
How badass was that fight, though, right? Like,
But the act, again, animated action sequences in this series are the best I've ever seen.
Tier. Top
Like,
tier.
holy shit. And like, I want to touch on it because it's in my head now. They did things that I've always wanted to like kind of know about. Like, Gambit powered up Wolverine and they fucking threw him at something like that. He can survive that. Why not fucking power him up with some explosives and just send him out somewhere like a fucking missile? I loved seeing shit like that. Like, this was the first time you got to see them explore with like, you got to see really what some of these characters are actually capable of. And I mean, again, when we get to the highlight of it for remember it. I mean, like, that has been a long-standing question in my mind. I'm like, is there a limitation to what he can charge and explode? And seemingly not. Like, that was the coolest fucking moment ever, but it was also the saddest moment I've ever seen.
Mhm.
It was incredible, but
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
we were talking
I
about
should
Madeline and them.
I should reiterate, like, all their powers actually seem to fit in and look great on the screen, and that there's like the 90s and that they kind of chipped away at it, and that, especially
Yeah.
with Wolverine, where he'd be attacking people and he just like the claws never hit anything.
And then they just fall over and be like, ah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I've been thrown halfway across the room. My god.
It's like the Ninja Turtles where the katanas
though-
don't do anything.
by the way, Wolverine weighs 600 pounds with that adamantium on his bones, but he still gets tossed around like nothing.
It's true.
Like, I still remember the Madeline Pryor stories and that from because way back in the day and that, but during that period and that, basically he thought Jean Grey was dead. Jean
Yeah.
Grey effectively was dead because it was after the events of Dark Phoenix. And Scott basically met Madeline and decided to move on and that, with his life because she looked so much like her and that, he couldn't help but fall in
Which
love.
is pretty
and that.
fucked up, to be honest.
By the way,
Yeah.
same thing happened to Wolverine. The girl Wolverine fell in love with in like 1902 looked exactly like Jean. So everybody's giving Wolverine shit for liking this
Fair.
movie. Cyclops is the same.
Yeah.
They just both look redheads.
And then the revelation that Jean was actually alive and that, and it's like what it did to the marriage of of Scott and Madeline, and that is like it was epic shit back in the day, like with the comics and that. The way they condensed everything down into that one one or two episodes, and that
Yeah,
I
it's true.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It's like I'm finding out that making things kind of concise and that is like it might be the new best thing
I
ever.
have heard on other shows people complain about, well, I wish they could have stretched this out or that out. And isn't that why a lot of the episodes when we were kids were kind of bad? That's why the animation was so expensive, because they ordered 26 episodes and they have to write for 26 episodes and nothing happens. That's why Dragon Ball Z, nothing would happen for 3 episodes.
3,
Like, we just
10.
10 episodes of screaming. Ah!
He's
Yeah,
still charging
like,
up.
we had no downtime, but it was still week to week. So every week you have all this stuff. So we never had a chance to go, oh man, what a crappy episode that was. Like nothing happened. No, shit happened every episode. It was great. I love that it went so quick.
Mhm.
Yep.
Like, and we're finally getting to see Scott have like bad like you don't really see a lot of bad shit happen to him in the original series.
Mhm.
It's never like we have his backstory where he kind of got hit in the head as a kid and his powers don't work good.
And his
Other than
father
that-
stuff, right?
Yeah.
Corsair.
With Star, what's his Star Fox, something like that. It's Corsair.
Corsair.
Yeah.
I don't remember right now.
I don't
Corsair.
remember. I don't remember his code name.
But he doesn't. Yeah, like it's just like, oh, like this weird short Canadian's like trying to steal my wife. That's
Yeah.
about the worst thing. And obviously, you know, being the leader of a team that's constantly struggling, this, yeah, it's not easy, but it's also like he kind of handles it. And now you're like, hey, guess what? Your wife is dead, and this woman is a clone, and she's having your baby. You're not actually married to her. Who do you love? Which one are you supposed to love?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
they're the
and your
same
wife's
person.
back now.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
guess what? Now they're both alive, and you just had a baby with that one. So
Yeah.
How does
Oh
that
no.
make you
Oh
feel,
wait.
huh?
Now your baby's sick.
hey,
Now your
your
baby's sick, and you have to lose your baby
Yeah.
your
forever.
mentor
into the future.
died, and one of your best friends, she just lost her mutant powers. So how does that make you like?
Yeah.
Just like beat the shit out of Cyclops, because that's what happened in the comics, and
Yeah.
then we get the Cyclops we have now, who's done a lot of terrible shit
Mhm.
and reconciles. it,
I
like,
cannot wait till because we're moving towards that evil Cyclops, and you
I'm
can tell it.
I'm waiting for him to go. Magneto was right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
know?
doubt that's gonna happen in season 2.
We got really close to that. Like we
Yeah.
got really close to that.
Yeah.
I don't
Interview.
imagine.
The interview, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
Oh,
people.
yeah. That was so good.
Oh,
Like that's one of the things that stood out for me is like how sharp all the dialogue has been. Like if they got into a monologue in that, it doesn't meander, it doesn't end off with some stupid quip in that. It's like it's
It
heartfelt.
hits.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It really hits.
And it's usually
Yeah, yep.
Beast who does the monologuing, but even then, he's super like direct
was
and to the
so
point. Like when he
Yeah.
was upset,
Well,
he
and
was
his-
upset.
I loved that. I loved him like turning the tables in that interview and just being like, like ripping her down and just being like, "We are not for your amusement," or whatever it was he said. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'm just
It
like,
was
fucking right.
like you people are lucky to have us, and that we wouldn't be
Yeah.
alive if you didn't have us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move on to what a lot of people call the Wolverine show, and that's the old X-Men movies. Because really, the focus of the X-Men movies weren't the X-Men; it was Wolverine,
It was Wolverine.
and then the X-Men were sort of the focus around him. But this show continues the 90s version of him being part of the team and always just being part of the team. He wasn't the leader, and he wasn't the sole focus. And that continued in this season. What do you guys think about that?
Thank God.
Yeah, like 100%. That's what we need. Like, there's so much good shit happening around us. There's so many other plentiful characters with amazing backstories, with amazing story arcs. We need to get away from just Grouth, little Canadian man who's really pissed off at everybody. And he can still be that. He can still get to do all of his things. You can bring back some Weapon X shit, whatever you want. But like, we need to focus on some of these other characters and what they can bring to the table. Because I mean, it seems like they're going to ramp up to some good Scott Summers shit that we're going to be able to enjoy. We got our new Storm, and she's fucking magnificent. Like, like they're doing this kind of stuff, and it's what we need from a show like this. We need the ensemble. We don't need it to be the Wolverine show. We don't need it to be the Cyclops show. We don't need it to be the Beast show. We don't need it to be the Morph show. We need it to be the X-Men show. We need it to be all of them together, just doing something. One episode's going to be heavier for one character once in a while, and we'll change focus, and it makes it more interesting. It's much more enjoyable as a watch, and we will have so many more stories to cover. Like they can keep this series going for years if they want. If they can do it right, they can keep it
I
going.
hope.
I don't know if it's like it for you guys, but the more popular Wolverine got, I felt like the least interesting he became.
Yeah,
as well. Where
for
it's just
sure.
like, oh, it's because how many stories are you gonna tell with this guy, right?
Yeah.
He had how many outings as Wolverine? Like Hugh Jackman?
8? Isn't it
Yeah.
8? Something?
Origins was still just like the worst damn thing.
Mhm.
Like, it was so terrible.
Like, when
It's
was
like-
he used best? First Class, when they show up and they go,
Fuck
I'm
off.
Professor
Yeah.
Charles Xavier. Fuck off. Like
Yeah.
that's
That was
the best
Wolverine.
use we had of that, right?
Yeah.
My favorite iteration was still Logan, but
I loved Logan.
Well,
This-
yeah,
this was
but
this
that's
was the
his
pro-
movie.
yeah, exactly. This was the problem in the X-Men series, and that is especially with Scott, and it's like because I
Oh.
like Chris Marsden and that I thought he was great casting for that role.
Oh, perfect.
They did nothing with the character in
And
the
then they killed
X-Men
him.
2, and then they killed him at the beginning of X-Men 3.
Do you know
and
why
that-
they killed James Marsden
So
in the
he
third
could
one?
be in Superman.
So
and
he
Lois.
could
He could be in
go,
Superman, which sucks
He
because
wasn't even the
he said
wasn't
he-
even the star.
he said
of
he
it.
would come back for X-Men. He just needed some time to finish his Superman role, and they were like, "Nope, we're just gonna
Nope.
fucking kill you." And we're like,
Yep.
"Why?
Well,
Why?"
they were trying to kill the X. They were trying to end the X-Men franchise for some reason too.
Yeah. I don't know why. But this series, in the very first episode, it was almost like this amazing makeover of the character in that, because it actually showed off like what a badass he is. Like, it's
When he just jumps out of the Blackbird,
Yeah.
superhero land.
Yeah.
and you're like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
that's what Captain America does. You're like, yeah, Cyclops can go toe to toe with Captain America.
Yeah. Fucking
Yeah.
hell. I love
that was
Cyclops.
really fucking cool. And like I've always wanted to see like an alternate version of Cyclops that's like lived in the wastelands and like, you know, post-apocalyptic Cyclops, like the last survivor of the X-Men kind of thing. Like I've always wanted to see like Cyclops pushed to an absolute crazy limit,
Like
and I
Old
just
Man
want to see him
Hawkeye,
just
but Cyclops.
yeah, like I've
Yeah.
always wanted to see that kind of storyline with a Scott Summers character. We don't have it, but you know, it would be lovely. An
Right.
alternate version. We
Mhm.
might.
He's
I mean,
he's long
I get
he's
it.
long dead
Yeah.
in all the Old Man series.
Yeah. I do appreciate that Scott is definitely coming into his own in the TV show. He's always been, you know, he's always been Xavier's number one. Like he's always followed his rules and everything. And to see him question everything that's happened so far, and for him to blow up at Xavier when he comes back and just like, you know what? Maybe you're wrong. I was like, fuck yes.
Yeah.
Go fucking go off, Cyclops. You're fucking awesome. I love him so much. He's such a good character. I hope they use him better in the new movies. We'll talk about that later. Because there are rumors swirling on the X-Men.
There were
Come on.
rumors that the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were going to be in fucking Endgame. dude.
Oh no,
Like,
no. I meant like because they are bringing him then in, but there's rumors of production stuff. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about
Oh, yeah, okay.
we'll talk about the this series really takes on Magneto's hero's journey, right? We really see him trying to live up to Charles's legacy.
Oh.
Like he gets left everything. The X-Men are, and the school is his, which is
Yeah.
funny because the
So-
school doesn't have any other students at this moment for some reason.
Nobody else there.
But we really see him struggle with peace with humans, and we see that
Well,
especially during the UN trial, and then everything that happens to Genosha, and then the ending, which you know, the ending. But Marcus, you were gonna say something. Go.
I love, like, this was the first time in this kind of series where like the relationship, the friendship that Charles and Magnus had is really highlighted in the way he tries to honor and respect his wishes, you know? Like he's like, this was left to me, and he's asked for me to follow his legacy. And even though Magneto is like so against this way of achieving their ideal world, he's trying so damn hard to make it work. And you like, I thought like the entire time, that first couple episodes, I'm just like, well, he's up to something, right? He's up to something.
Yeah.
And then you get to a point where you're like, holy shit, he's like legitimately just trying to make it work. And it was so amazing. And then you can see where that breaking point happens, and you can be on board. It's the trend of like, you know, being able to sympathize with the villain and being like, well, I get where you're coming from. 100%. I get where you're coming from. And I could see myself doing exactly what you just did. Like his journey has been wonderful in this season, where it's like, I get it. I can 100% sympathize
Mhm.
with his way of thinking.
Like I
And it's,
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
totally
right.
understood why Rogue and Sunspot went with him. Like it
Yeah.
made sense.
Well, especially by that point,
Yeah.
right? Like before Genosha, like when it's just the UN attack, you're like, well, it's just it's like, you know, it's just like a whatever you want, a terrorist group or whatever, right? And Magneto's this thing, and Magneto essentially is like, okay, I don't have to be up to something. The humans will do it to themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that fucking line where he goes, "Don't make me let you down."
Down.
is
yeah.
such
Oh.
a good threat of like,
Oh,
get your people in line, because I can defend you, the X-Men can defend you, but if you keep attacking us, we can't defend you.
Yeah.
And then obviously Genosha happens, and he's like, well, motherfuckers, I told you to get your house in order. Now what are you supposed to do? I'm gonna turn off the fucking lights. Like, you're just gonna fucking murder people? And yeah, it's hard to argue after that. You're like, oh yeah, they just murdered a bunch of innocent civilians, and every government in the world who knew how to do something didn't do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those are government resources that all those people used. How do you tell Magneto, yeah, maybe don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, maybe don't send the world back to the Stone Age. Fuck it, send the world back to the Stone Age.
Yep. I mean,
Yeah.
they funded the whole thing.
Yeah.
I loved it. The way that they chose to open it like that, because like, let's face it, like Charles and Magnus and that, as far as like comic book frenemies, rivalries and that, one of the best ever in that. Like right up there with like Batman and Joker or anybody else, because they're like two mutants who are basically diametrically opposed in worldview and that, but at the
And
same
abilities.
time, and abilities and that, but at the same time, still trying to get to the same goal at the end
Yeah.
of the day. And that,
Yeah.
yeah, they there are times when they hate each other, but their friendship is almost eternal in that, you know. And I love that it kicked off like they even mentioned like the finale in that. About like how Magneto was ready to set off like World War III after the death of Charles, or when he thought Charles had died. Ugh, so good.
Yeah, how do you I mean, yeah, Magneto has so many reasons to be pissed from even before, right? And he because how many times was he like, all right, we'll fuck off then.
Yeah.
Asteroid M, we're out. We'll see ya.
Yeah.
Well, you can't have that. Okay. Well, here we'll just make a nice place where mutants live. Okay, we won't be in space. Okay, even though that doesn't matter, being in space would have been fine.
Yeah.
We'll live here on the planet, and all the mutants will come here, all because we'll make it so good. And then what happens? Oh, we try to kill them all. Well, fuck, dude, you got other superpowered people out there. What the fuck is the problem with these? Oh my god, like,
Yeah.
how do you
And
argue with that?
even when he complies with the rules, it's like fine, and that he allowed himself, he turned
Yeah.
himself in, he allowed himself to stand trial. And what happened? Somebody tried to take away his powers.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Brilliant. I love. Oh, so good.
What's next, Eric?
I'm debating it because I started just want to go into episode of spotlights, like the highlights.
Yeah, I mean, we've already kind of covered visuals and animation.
Yeah, we did.
It's like,
It's real good. It looks real good.
It's good.
Everything
The
is
Cyclops
beautiful.
father.
Everything is so gorgeous.
We can talk about this before we get into episode highlights. Is we're gonna go back into Scott Summers because he does become a father in this, and there's a lot of fear in him because he was abandoned as a child. Him and his brother were abandoned by his father to go off and do fucking space adventures.
Hell yeah.
I mean, I understand.
Is that gonna come up with Xavier then? Be like, hey, my dad left me for space, and then you're like my dad and you left for space? Like, that's cool.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, there's a lot of mirroring of stuff because Xavier leaves him. He ends up having to leave his son because his son is sick. So Bishop takes him to the
protect his
future.
son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bishop feels like he was abandoned. Not Bishop. Cable feels like he was abandoned by his father because he was sent off that way. So
Well, he was, yeah,
the-
like,
the-
kind of.
He was abandoned.
what are you guys' thoughts on the idea of fatherhood and Cyclops and like all this?
I love that they don't make it easy, and they don't make it like a clear cut. This is how we deal with this, and this is how we step away from it, and we make things right. Like Cable and Cyclops have a few really lovely moments throughout the series, but they're still not like, oh, Dad, I love you. Like that's not
Let's
going to be
go
a thing.
throw a ball in the yard.
Let's go throw a ball. Like there's little moments, and like when he gives him that uniform at the end, that's mirroring his uniform, and like I'm like, yes, that's awesome. I love it. But there's still just, you can tell that they're like, it's this, if this was to still work between them in whatever world this is, it won't be a clean cut, clear kind of thing. Like Scott has issues, Cable has issues. I'd say the majority of the mutants in this entire series have some sort of family issues that need to be worked out anyway. Ain't nobody here that's like, oh yeah, I was raised and loved and perfectly, everything went great with my family.
That's every character, right? Other than Superman, basically, who is still technically abandoned, but they're all orphans. They're always orphans.
Yeah, because that's
Even the rich
Something.
ones, Bruce Wayne, Danny Rand, Tony Stark, They're orphans, but they're rich orphans. They all have butlers.
I mean, yeah. Butlers that care, though. Butlers
That's
that
true.
care.
Yeah.
It always
Yeah.
goes so deep like that. I mean, like even Charles, for as great as he is a mentor and that, and like a father figure to like all the students and that, he had to abandon his own child in that, and just because like the child was in danger because of who he was and who Charles was.
Do you one of the things that I kind of like always like, do you remember in the original animated series, Moira's son,
Oh
who
yeah,
becomes
Proteus.
Proteus? Yeah, fucking crazy overpowered mutant there. But like that was one that I remember, that was one of my favorite original series episodes, because I remember just like it was all about this, just like calming down a tantrum-ridden son who doesn't understand his powers, can't like focus, can't do anything. Like there was just so much elements of like, oh, this is just like dealing with a child who can't mentally figure things out. But like with when the stakes are so high, when it's somebody who can bring someone like Logan to his knees whimpering and crying,
Mm-hmm.
like that's insanely cool and powerful. And I remember that like that episode, like I watched it the first 500 times because of him and his power. I just thought he was the coolest like powered mutant. But then like it's become a different sort of thing now. Rewatching it is like, oh, like this is even more powerful. It's like it's the rearing of children. It's the trying to get your child to understand and calm and like talk. Like let's think about this first. Let's work this out, because otherwise something really bad could happen. Like that was I love that character and I love that episode. I really liked that sort of thing. And like to see like they were already kind of doing this kind of stuff way back
Mm-hmm.
in that series, and like the fact that they're still highlighting those points in difficult family rearing because of the mutant abilities, because of all this. It's just kind of cool. I really like that.
I really would love to see Legion show up, like just to see
Hell yeah.
how Charles would
Now,
react.
isn't there? If I remember, there was an episode with what's his name? Dude, fucking guy. Oh my god, Jubilee dealt with him just in that one episode where they were in a
Mojo?
video game.
Mojo?
Mojo.
Yeah.
Joe, yes.
Like I feel like there was an episode in the original series with Mojo, and I feel like Legion was in the background where he was like there or something like that. I feel like there was like
Huh.
something where they point to him, or like there's something like where you can see the hair, you can see like the face or something. Like I feel like there was something there from the past that like pointed to his character, and they never explored it past that.
Oh, I'm gonna have to rewatch those episodes now, because if that happened,
Yeah.
man. Let's get into the episode highlights. I only picked a couple episodes. I feel like I only left out like 3. But let's start with the first episode 1. To me, my X-Men. What a powerful way to start off this season. The return of the MOH, and as a continued threat to the X-Men, and the X-Men sort of trying to figure out how to move forward as a team without Charles. What do you guys think of this first episode? What really stuck out in it? And yeah,
It was a real rug pull, right? Because you think, okay, well, they're going to deal with this thing at the end of the episode. They're like, all right, we're ready to be the X-Men without Professor X. Scott comes in and he's to me, my X-Men. And you're like, oh so
yeah.
badass. And then they get home and you're like, wait, what?
Man.
Yeah.
Excuse
Meg,
me.
you're
No,
just
no,
like,
no.
You're
They're a
mine.
team. They are a team, sir. I don't know what's happening.
Oh. What the thing that like, I mean, again, I think when I first watched that episode, I wasn't looking for deep meaning and like what was going to be happening or anything. I was just more like, oh my god, the show's back, everything is here. And what to me, like, it was all the beauty of the action sequences and the animation that really caught me more than anything, and made me go, well, I'm going to have to watch absolutely every single bit of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the part where they take Scott's visor and he's just like, no, please, gotcha. Just like
He does his
blasting
not
this
joke
shit.
from the 90s.
Yeah,
oh my
like,
god.
Oh my fucking god. I loved that so much. Like that kind of shit. And then like I just watching them like actually kick ass was really cool for the first time, because like you know, if you go back, like I tried to rewatch a few episodes of the original series, and yeah, the action sequences are pretty terrible. The animation is janky. Like, you know, they seemingly grow and shrink at ridiculously random intervals. Like Beast is smaller than Wolverine a minute, and then all of a sudden he's much bigger. Like there's just like all these like weird kind of things. And so to see it all like play out with proper animation was really nice while still keeping the aesthetic of the original. So like that first watch, that first episode, I was just in awe and just flabbergasted by how beautiful and amazing it looked while staying true to its original roots.
So for me, the standout in one, after just getting over like Scott with the whole, you know, superhero landing, you know, this visor blast that slows down his descent, I was like, how can it get any better than that? They bring in Storm and that fighting the Sentinels and that, and she calls down her lightning, electrifies an entire beach into just glass, picks up the Sentinels in a wind funnel, throws the glass in there to use as projectiles, and I was like, they finally did it, you know. The 90s cartoons, like rewatch it with like Storm is, I love Storm, but like in the 90s cartoons it's painful because she has to basically like emote like what she wants to do with her powers.
Yeah.
And that, you know?
Yeah. Winds of change, blow them away. And that's all she ever did. Everything just got blown away because it's the safe thing of that time frame. Like you're not allowed to show the damage, you're not allowed to show the physical problems that could happen. It's like just blow them away. No problems.
Oh, so good.
For me, the first episode, what really hit it out of the park for me was the X-Men didn't just become a team right away. They weren't just like, oh yeah, we're a family, we're gonna stick together, everything's fine. I love that how they were all fighting with each other in the kitchen, and like how Gambit was such like a little shit to Cyclops the whole time. I love that they were all arguing, and then when it mattered, that's when they came together, and you could really see that happening. And right at the end, especially with the "To Me My X-Men," oh, that was just fucking perfect. And then, like Dave said, they're just like, let's pull the rug right out of here, right at the end.
But like that also set up this season so perfectly. You will not be able to predict what you're about to see. You know, because like the 90s, the original 90s series would have just ended on "To Me My X-Men," and like that would have been it. We were like, yeah, okay, Cyclops is the new leader, and then like that's it. We wouldn't really get much else. And all of a sudden to get that rug pull was so good because suddenly we're like, oh shit, we can't predict. We don't know. How is this going to work out? Like, oh,
I think it's the same thing. You know, everybody, you'll see that clip of Gene Wilder explaining where the reason, you know, he wouldn't have done Willy Wonka if he couldn't have walked out and then lost the cane and done the somersault. So you can't trust him. So immediately you go, I have no idea what the fuck had happened in the rest of this show. And then they get into some comic story arcs and you're like, oh, well, they're going to do that. Oh, okay. Well, that's already done. So what the hell are they going to do next week? And then they do another. You're like, what the fuck? Like, every time you start a thing, you finish it. I don't know what could be coming next. Like, I can't predict anything. It's flawless.
Yeah. I was going to skip over straight to episode 5, but I got to talk about episode 2 because Mutant Liberation Begins is the episode where Magneto goes to the UN and like he turns himself in and they have the trial about him being a war criminal and then all the shit that happens. What do you what stood out in this episode for you?
For me, I like there was that moment where like, you know, they're storming into the UN to try to like, you know, assassinate him and all this kind of stuff. After all that gets kind of sorted, and then like Storm gets hit by that whatever it was, the mutant bullet thing that's supposed to zap the powers. When he takes that entire panel out into space, like that was such a fucking great moment. Because like you're just like, oh shit, Magneto's gonna fuck shit up. He's gonna fucking kill you. He's gonna rip you apart. And instead, he just did it to illustrate his point so perfectly. And then fucking just comes right back down. He's like, all right, now what? Like it's just,
well, it's
he's
such
so
a
good.
Parallel of Professor X when he would do the, you know, when you get it later on, and obviously with the classes in session of like Professor X would be like, all right, everybody freeze, let's talk. And Magneto essentially does that, but the way he can do it, right? Is he just, all right, well, there's a problem here. I'll bring us over there. Now we can talk. What do you want to talk about? And they're like,
Yeah.
He goes, well, I'm giving you an opportunity. Like,
Yeah.
I'm doing it Charles's way instead of crushing you.
Yep. Yeah.
For me, as powerful as that scene is, it was like when Storm was lying there after, having her powers taken away, and that it really killed me because I was
Oh.
like,
Yeah.
oh my,
I can't
'cause
feel the wind.
I
Oh.
I had no idea
Oh.
they were gonna do that storyline, because that story ran so long in the comic books, and that like she even took over as leader of the X-Men, and that without her powers at that point.
Yeah.
Um, I'm glad it resolved because I was like, oh my God, I love the storyline, and but at the same time, like, you just showed how awesome she is in the show.
Mhm.
How long
Yeah.
are you gonna keep her without powers? So I'm glad it resolved when it did. But I am glad that like again, like they have a great way of condensing these storylines into like a good half hour, couple episodes streak. Awesome.
I got to be honest. I wanted her to lead the X-Men without any powers. So when it happened, I was like, "Oh fuck, they're gonna do this." But they didn't. Whatever. But yeah, that's probably my favorite sequence. Like the acting, just from the
I can't feel the wind.
I can't feel the wind was
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
There's a lot of that in the show, like people like saying like they lost something, and all I had to say was like, I can't feel this.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
just crushed.
Speaking of not feeling things, episode 5, as Genosha prepares to join the UN, which was quite a big feat. The X-Men send a small contingent to Genosha to get things ready for this, while the other half of the X-Men sort of try and figure out what's going on, what happened with Master Mold, and why their Sentinels back. This man.
Maybe Master Mold wasn't still plugged in after all.
Yeah. I mean,
this is the episode. This episode is the one where it's like it really made you realize that like you can't be comfortable enough in the show. Like
Yeah.
everything was going too well. Like there was a little bit of friction with like the Magneto Rogue thing, and you were just like, okay, this is kind of where they're going with this. And then they hit you with the hardest curveball I've ever been hit with in a animated series, where not only are they now fighting for their lives, being attacked, but like brutally being ripped and killed, like mercilessly being killed. The entire island is just being destroyed, and then even when Cable comes in and he's like, "Fuck, I'm not fast enough. I wasn't able to stop it." He's like, "I'm so sorry," and then having her like realize in that moment that, oh my God, you're my son, and then all this shit happens. I'm like, what the fuck?
There's an interesting escalation episode over episode that doesn't feel like Dragon Ball Z level, where it's like, oh, it's too big, it's right, it's the Friends of Humanity, right? You're like, oh, okay, well, there's some like kind of low level villains, then you're like, oh shit, this guy can like take away people's powers, and then you're like, okay, well, they fought some Sentinels, whatever, no big deal. How about we just blow up an entire island full of mutants? Right. It's almost like every time they literally go like, what's over here, and then they just fucking clock you. Because in that episode, you're going, oh, this is kind of nice. You're like, ooh, look at all these. Oh, it's Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost, and oh, who's that? And all these cool characters. Oh, it's been a while since we've seen them. Yeah. Don't worry about them, because we're gonna drop a fucking nuke basically.
Yeah.
On your ass. Like, you just get so excited of all of these things. Like, ooh, I can't believe that's happening, and then boom, it's fucking mean, and I like it. And I want more of it.
It's reminiscent of the comic books, right? Like in the comic books, we lost characters all the time. We lost loved main characters all the time. That was part of the storylines. You had to just deal with it. You're not going to have this character for the rest of this series. And then you're just going to have to wait and pick up another X-Men issue, blah, 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 where they're doing a different timeline, a different storyline, and maybe then you can enjoy your time with whatever character.
Yeah.
That's what they did with this series, and I was just like, I even remember like after it happened, I was shocked, I was sad, I was upset, I was broken, but then I also thought they better not just fucking bring him back, because if they just like magic this back together, I will be even more pissed off that they brought me on this ride without making it mean something,
If we
right?
don't lose
I-
some characters, how are we gonna get like Emma Frost and the X-Men? How
Yeah.
are we gonna get? How are we gonna fit Nightcrawler if we've got Gambit? You know how like
Yeah.
you can't. The show can't.
You just
support
swap them
30
in
characters.
in the title sequence, and it's nobody notices.
I love. We'll talk
felt-
about the
I-
title sequence later too. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
when I was watching this, I fell into that trap because I just recently watched the series and that, and I've seen episodes and that where it's like with Bishop and that trying to go back and correct the timeline. It's like, oh, okay, you know what, it's all right. The whatever happens, they'll do that. And it's like by the end of it, it's like that slow realization creeped over. It's like, oh, this is permanent.
Yeah.
This is permanent.
This is permanent. Yeah.
The thing that really hit it out of the park for me was when I was watching it live. I watched it in the morning, like right after my kids went to school, so no one had seen it yet, and I couldn't talk to anyone about it, which really fucking sucked that whole day.
I'd probably seen it. I always watch them like the night before, basically.
Maybe we could have talked. Shit, I should have talked to you. Anyway,
What?
so I'm sitting there, and you're watching the party happen, and they go to the sky, and you see the Watcher there, and you're like, and I was sitting there looking there, I was like, the fucking Watcher's here, which means something fucking big is gonna happen.
I said that. I literally said that. I was just like, oh, I wonder if they've been putting him in every scene, and I just haven't noticed it. But then I realized after the fact, I'm like, oh shit, the Watcher is only at like
Big events.
epic, big events throughout the multiverse and shit.
And it
I'm
happens
like, oh
right-
my god.
And what happens is you see the Watcher, you pan down, you see Cable running through, being like, "Oh fuck, get out!" And you're like, "Oh no,
Yeah.
oh no."
Yeah.
They did such a good job with that because in the old series, when you had Bishop or Cable show up, you were always like, "Oh man, like what are they doing here? Like what are they?" But you, like, I don't think that you were always, I think, confused because you didn't know what was necessarily happening. You didn't, and obviously the animation wasn't as good, and the writing wasn't quite as good. But you felt Cable's frustration this time, where you're like, how many times has this guy tried to stop certain things? Now, because to be fair, when they first show up, it's like the first season, and you don't really know a lot. You don't know why they keep coming back in time, but now they come back. We've already sent Bishop and Nate away.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh well, shit, he's already back. Well, that can't be good.
Nope, no. And then when you start seeing the Kaiju Sentinel start killing everyone, and it's not just like little people. You see Madeline Pryor die. You see Banshee die, who had like fucking
I
runs.
didn't see that.
You didn't see Banshee die?
Oh, fuck.
Banshee-
To be honest,
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
I was
Banshee
so
go-
distracted by Ace of Base,
I
which I
mean,
still am listening to on a daily basis.
that's fair. I mean,
It's so good.
and like
I
not-
was wondering where Banshee was.
like Banshee dies. You see Moira McTaggart die as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's like obviously the Morlock crew dies with Magneto, sort of.
Magneto. Yeah.
Um,
Well,
Callisto
Magneto,
shown-
obviously, we know that he survives, but like we find that out after. But like in that moment, I assume that they all died. But like the Morlocks are dead.
Yeah.
I assume that they have not survived.
No, for sure. Or else probably would have seen Leech. We saw Callisto die on screen, like actually like physically just lose life in her body. Travis Willingham dies off screen. I meant Sebastian Shaw.
Sebastian Shaw?
Yeah. Which is crazy.
I don't think he can.
Yeah, and yeah, it's fair. But he was part of the dead people. He was right beside Madeline Pryor. Was he not?
That's a weird one.
Yeah. Like and then ending it off with like fucking Gambit just having the most epic fight, like just incredibly like well choreographed, well animated, and then that one little snick into the side, you're like, oh fuck. And you see a little bit of blood come out of his mouth, you're like, no. No.
Yep.
And I remember like that moment, I was just like, oh no, like I honestly thought he was just gonna be wounded or something. But when he kind of like the name's Gambit, share, remember it, and like you saw him grab it, that's when I realized I'm like, oh fuck, no, this is all gonna end. This is all over. This is all done. But that also really, I love that moment because it also has answered the long-standing question of like, what is the limitation to his power, and like him charging up a full fucking Master Mold Sentinel and blowing it the fuck away was one of the most incredible things I've seen in any.
Suspect that part of that though is that like because the way the mutant powers work is they just kind of get tired. That's why they can't use them anymore. It's like the way Gandalf doesn't cast spell; he just does stuff until he can't anymore.
Yeah.
So because Gambit probably knew he was going to die, he can just give it everything.
Well,
So
that's
it's
what.
one of
Yeah,
those
yeah,
things
for
where it's
sure.
like, if he did that normally, he'd probably just die anyway. So you're like, well, you've got all this surface area, it's in you, just, So I do wonder if, like, he obviously couldn't do that on a regular basis, but
Probably not, but I
No.
mean, like, just
you get
the
one.
fact that there is that scope to it, like,
Yeah.
like, it's more than just cards and a staff that he can do this to. Like, like we've seen him do it to small items and to small things, and
Yeah.
in the earlier episode to Logan, but like,
It makes you think, like, how much could he have done? Like, he's probably holding back quite a bit. Like, how Superman always has to hold back his powers.
Yeah.
Like,
Cyclops
as well.
always holds back.
Yeah.
Cable.
Spider-Man does too.
Yeah.
Spider-Man does a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
I love the fact that I know, like, I'm jumping to a different episode here, but like we actually get to see Cable using mutant powers in this for a little bit too,
Well, yeah,
which was
because
really
he
fucking
has
cool.
to use his telekinesis to hold back the techno-organic virus.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
real danger to him to use
Use
his
them.
telekinesis, because he's an Omega level, just like Jean Grey and
Yeah.
Magneto. Like,
Let's skip forward to episode 7, Bright Eyes. This is when the team really this is when they're trying to figure out what's going on. They're trying to figure out why there's these Sentinels coming out. It's when Cyclops and the team, they go after Bolivar Trask, and, Rogue is going off on her wild fucking, just going off. And when she meets General Ross,
Thunderbolt
Ross in
Thunderbolt Ross
in the Hulk
Yeah.
in the Hulk prison.
Was that Ross Marquand again doing a William Hurt impression?
Probably.
I thought no, I have no idea. That's a good idea.
Let's take a look at that.
That is a good question.
Because he was definitely a William Hurt impression, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm not,
It was definitely not a Harrison Ford one, which would have been interesting because he's the next General
Imagine
Ross.
Harrison Ford in a cartoon.
Yeah, well, they could have done the voice. This is when the cameos from the Marvel universe really start for me. Is when you start seeing other people that aren't just mutants, because Rogue goes up against Captain America. What do you guys think
Captain
about?
America.
What do you guys think about this episode?
I like Unhinged Rogue.
Yeah.
I really like that because, again, like, Rogue is another one of those super powerful mutants that we don't really touch on where her limitations kind of fall, and like, really it's kind of the same sort of thing. Like, Rogue is holding back a fair bit fairly often. So to have that kind of moment of, like, I love her throwing Cap's shield away. I fucking love that.
Yeah.
Like, well, if
She
you're not
should
going to help me,
be-
then you don't need this.
She should be as powerful as Captain Marvel, right? She has her full set of powers and memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which they sort of alluded to in the original series.
No,
I
they
guess,
did
but
the whole.
They did
did
that.
They
that.
didn't have the rights to Captain Marvel.
But
when
they
did the show.
showed Carol Danvers in it. Yeah.
Do they? Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the original, yes, they did.
Okay.
Yeah, she
It's been a long
stole all
time.
the power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also the
Michael-
Prime Sentinels right at the end.
Michael Patrick McGill did the voice of
Did
Ross.
a really good job.
Damn good. Wait, he was. That sounds really
Let's
familiar.
see, known for.
And it wasn't just Banshee who got. He's
Credits.
Banshee's flying with Marrow, which I knew. I knew Marrow died. but-
Yeah, Marrow. I didn't
He
know
was on-
anyone cared
Actually,
about Marrow.
he was sorry. He also did Ross in the What If series and that. so.
That's why. Yeah,
okay.
for sure. Unhinged Rogue is amazing. I love
It's
that all
awesome.
of them are sort of like on this really arduous task to fucking find out what's going on. Like all bets are off the table, man. They just have to fucking go. And when they find the Prime Sentinels at the end, I did not expect them to go into that storyline. I know they had talked about Operation Zero Tolerance, like previous, like just small hints. But for them to actually go into the Prime Sentinels, they're like, fuck. Holy shit. That's a big thing.
It's like an 80s action movie where if we just started with that, and then like now Arnold's got to go find out and kill all the bad guys. Like that's what it felt like to me. Where it's just like, all right, the superheroes are gonna go do the detective work, by which we mean beat the shit out of people until they get the information they want.
For sure.
Because like we said, yeah, they're holding back, right? Like Cyclops says it. Is it in that episode when he says like, "What would you be doing without us? We protect you," basically. Where it's like, yeah, what happens when that gets turned against you, right? Like these people are literally protecting you from extraterrestrial threats and other people with similar powers who are trying to harm you, and then you're gonna be like, well, let's get them all. It's like, no, those are you need those people. Now what happens when they turn against you? Now, like, no one is there to protect you against them. Otherwise, we would already have Avengers versus X-Men happening.
Which is they're really alluding to, which I feel like is going to happen in like
we
season
saw
2.
Iron Man, we saw Cap, we sort of saw the Hulk, right? We know he exists.
Yeah.
Right? We're just missing like Ant-Man, Wasp, maybe Vision.
I mean,
Dude, Storm versus Vision fight next season.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be the main thing next season because the whole apocalypse thing. We'll talk about that in the finale. But I feel at the end of it is when they're gonna team up.
Hold on, because
assemble.
that could end in one episode.
That's fair.
Like it could be
That's true.
one episode.
Yes.
True.
Like we really don't know.
They finished recording the audio already, so they are well into production.
Well, animation takes a long time, as we know. It's been 900 years since the.
But they've been animating this for a while, so
yeah,
right. Oh,
hopefully next year, because we got What If pretty soon, right? It
Yeah.
was only not like 16 months or something.
Yeah. But those
we're
were
gonna
also...
get What If. We're gonna get a new season of What If before the next X-Men, though, right?
Yeah, and that's this year. What If is this year?
Please have X-Men in What If.
Please. Why wouldn't they? Anyway,
my little raccoon paws would very much like the X-Men to be in What If.
I mean, especially after Deadpool and Wolverine, how could they not? Anyway, any other thoughts on the Prime Sentinels in this episode? Rogue going off and stuff.
So scary.
Good.
Fucking powerful as shit.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Then we get something I didn't think we'd do: a 3-episode fucking finale. Tolerance's Extinction 1, 2, and 3, which just kept on. It could have been a movie on its own. It was that damn good. We get Bastion leading the Prime Sentinels and pretty much almost destroying the X-Men until Magneto comes back and just fucking whoops the whole world into a frenzy. Then we start to get that fight against Magneto. Magneto starts dealing with his whole trauma with Charles in his head later, and then we get the fucking amazing battle between the X-Men and Bastion at the end. Oh my god, this finale is insane and so good, and
it's really impressive to take what I think most people would not think of like an S tier X-Men villain. Like Bastion is kind of lame in the comics.
Yeah.
And they did such a good job like making him sort of sympathetic by showing all this backstory. Maybe it's because the comics were, comics tend to be a lot more stretched out.
Yeah.
So we kind of get this condensed of like, hey man, like this guy had a rough life and blah blah blah, and he's persecuted in the same way as mutants, but he's got this brainwash of like, oh, I gotta kill all the mutants. It's like, well, you're kind of one of us, so just
seeing his mom hate on mutants was crazy.
Yeah.
As well, like, and how that has. Like, again, we talked about it earlier, how much the parenting affects all the people on this show. Like, it's so well done.
It's like so many X-Men things, it parallels real life so much where, prejudice is taught, not instinctual, right? How many times does it say, if your mom hadn't have said no to Charles, you'd be on our side right now.
He even says that himself.
Yeah.
I would have been up here with you guys.
Yeah. Like, oh my God, why can't Cable go back in time and do that?
Fix points in time.
That's right.
Fix points.
I mean, how sick was that for Beast to drop that little like, in Comatage?
Yeah.
Is it a canon event like in
also
Spider-Man?
Well, you see Doctor Strange in the cameos. Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about the cameos in the last 3.
Well,
and
Doctor Strange, Daredevil.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I know everybody.
Cloak
went
and
crazy.
Dagger. Fuck.
Cloak and Dagger. Everybody
Cloak
went
and
crazy
Dagger.
when we saw Spider-Man, but when I saw Daredevil, I walked away. I was like, because Daredevil is my favorite, and he was on X.
It looked good too. That
Yeah.
was like a good looking Daredevil.
The thing that broke the cameo that broke me in the finale was seeing Mary Jane show up because she had disappeared in the animated series.
Yeah, she at the end of that series, she's gone.
She's gone. So that means he found her and brought her back, and then Flash Thompson's hanging out in the background, which I thought was really funny too.
People have been asking the Spider-Man voice actor, who I would love to have come back.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "What do you?" He's like, "I haven't heard anything." I'm like, "He's lying. He's lying. They're gonna do a Spider-Man."
Spider-Man 98. Oh my god.
Bring it all back. Bring back Spider-Man. Bring back the Avengers. Bring back the Silver Surfer.
Silver Surfer was so
The
good.
show was so cool.
And
with the success of this show, maybe it costs. I'm sure it costs a lot of fucking money, but Disney Plus's other stuff has been kind of terrible the last 2 years. So
They've been
give us
hit
a
or miss,
reason. They fucked up with Echo.
Yeah.
They fucked up with Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Loki was fucking great.
Loki was
beautiful.
Loki
People
was great.
are split on Loki. I'm not a huge fan of that.
Loved it. I loved it so much.
I thought that could have been a single episode that whole season. I think we've talked about this.
Any other thoughts on the finale?
Oh my god, Wolverine! Like Magneto, Wolverine's adamantium.
Oh god.
I
Perfect.
was honestly when I think it's part 2 where they leave that as the cliffhanger, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I loved it so much. It happened, and I remember being like, "Oh my god, feral Wolverine!"
It looked perfect too, right?
It looked exactly like the comic book, exactly like it ripping
and
up
the goo.
the
Oh my god.
paint. Oh. But I just loved because I loved that him stabbing through Magneto and then him being like, "We end this stupid little thing," and he just fucking pushes him back, and then you see him twisting, and I'm like, "Oh, "We're gonna do it!"
What made it even more perfect for me was knocking Wolverine out for the whole last episode, because you would expect people to be like, oh, he's gonna be there and he's gonna fucking kick ass because Wolverine is the most popular X-Men. I was like, fucking awesome. Don't even have him there. That was amazing.
In the comic books, when he gets the adamantium ripped out of him, it literally resets his body, it resets his brain, it resets everything to the point where when he does come to, he's not Wolverine, he's not Logan, he's not even whatever his original name was. He's not James Howlett. He is not these people. He is like a feral beast monster version of himself that's just ready to survive and attack the way an animal would do it. And I'm like, oh, please, 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 please give me this.
They're gonna do it too, and he's gonna be with Morph.
This is what I need.
He's gonna be with Morph, and Morph's gonna pull him back with love.
And then and then they're gonna get together, and then we're gonna see some stuff.
We're adults now. You can show it in animation.
You showed blood, now show semen. I mean,
we don't know what Morph has.
Morph is gonna change into Sasquatch from the
Alpha Flight.
Yeah, Alpha Force, yeah. And they're just gonna get it on.
I mean, Puck showed up in the last episode too. Oh my god!
We didn't just see Puck, didn't we see
North Star?
North Star,
yes.
No, there's only one other time I can think of that parallel. I don't know if you guys read the Civil War comics, but
which one? Civil War 1 and 2. I read both.
No,
of them.
The first one back in 2005, 5, yeah, where Wolverine's chasing down Nitro after Nitro blew up that whole thing that caused the Civil War.
Wasn't it Cannonball? Who did that?
No. Cannonball. No, it's not Cannonball. There's another kid who Speedball is with the New Warriors and they're attacking.
Oh yeah,
And then they're against an A tier villain and they're a C tier team, and so he just blows up a school, whatever.
Playground.
But Wolverine is like, hey, how come no one's chasing down the guy who killed everyone? Everyone's trying to fight about registration, and so he goes after Nitro, and Nitro's like, buddy, he just blows up again, and Wolverine gets holocausted, right? It's literally the scene in T2. And he's like, done with that. And Wolverine just is like a skeleton. And he's just walking towards him and kills him because it's Wolverine. But he doesn't lose his memories then. So I don't know. Maybe it's because it's after that whole thing. Because his healing factor gets so much stronger.
Yeah.
After. But I just that was on that level for me of
I like to think that Wolverine's healing factor gets more and more powerful the more it gets used. Kind of like the Saiyans get stronger after every battle they have. Every time he has to fully regenerate, he gets stronger and better at regenerating. So I feel as you do it more and more, you just get better and better. So eventually, when he's able to fix his mind, he's able to heal his mind every time he heals himself.
I like that we keep on.
It's like the opposite of Deadpool. Every time Deadpool's brain regenerates and he forgets everything because his brain.
Yeah.
I like
Wolverine gets to keep his memories, I think, after that. And so it's like it's weird where we're talking about a lot of people leveling up. Cyclops is kind of leveling up. Gambit kind of leveled up. And now, in a way, like Wolverine gets to level up. As cool as he's, like super leveled up. Obviously, we finally get to see him use the powers he's basically always had in the comics.
He's my favorite person to watch.
The strongest X-Man.
Yeah, I think what really stood out in this finale was when Scott actually took the mantle of the leader and was like, "Let's talk to Bastion and see if we can actually, reason with him at this moment. Sure, we could kill him, but this is what we should do." Like
That was a great moment.
And when Storm went to talk to Forge and Beast and be like, "Hey, don't use the things that they use against us. We got to be better." Like, I know it was sort of more implied that she was threatening them, but I think if people who actually know the characters will be like, no. She's saying we can't do, like, we have to be better. That's the point of the X-Men, is that we don't fight people the way they fight us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's in a lot of ways, and she's always been a part of the conscience of the characters. She's always like a very sound character of reason. And so when the X-Men fall apart basically when she's gone, and then she comes back at the end, and all of a sudden everybody can get, work together again. And then they literally have Gold Team and Blue Team.
Ah, so good. I love
So
that thing.
cool.
You know who we haven't really talked about was Mr. Sinister, and he definitely comes.
Finally got to see his power.
His comeuppance really happens in this in this finale, and the look on Morph's face when he becomes Mr. Sinister is just perfect. That being said,
sick.
I don't like when Phoenix comes back just randomly. I think that's sort of cheap. But it made sense in the moment, I guess.
They could have just let Jean be an Omega level mutant, but she's kind of an Omega level mutant only because of the Phoenix. So it's like,
well, it's that, I feel like it's that kind of thing of like Jean chooses not to be the Phoenix as opposed to like the Phoenix is a separate thing. It's just like, well, no, I could be the most powerful person here, but it much like we've been talking, everybody holds back. Jean knows what's at stake if she succums to the Phoenix.
The Phoenix is always there, but it's just her sort of
the
like
Phoenix is always
back.
there, but like if it's that kind of, if you completely overindulge on the Phoenix, that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
Everybody's done. We're all done. You're going to destroy the world.
It's like tapping into the dark side, and you're like, well, it's there. I think the line.
I feel like there's only a handful of characters that can actually go toe to toe with the Phoenix in the entire lore of the X-Men universe. So
and
I mean,
all of Marvel, to be honest,
it's one of those kind of characters where you're just like, it's crazy powerful, but we have to put a cap on it. So we give it to this character who mentally says, I'm not going to let this happen. So bringing out the Phoenix once in a while, it's kind of a cool flex.
Sinister kind of got off easy because I know when Sinister's at full power, his body part, he never gets hurt. His body will just separate.
Yeah.
Right? He's like the T-1000 where he just reconglomerates. And in I don't remember what issue, but Jean, or the Phoenix, I guess, just goes fine, and she just throws all parts of his body to different corners in the universe, so that it's going to take him thousands of years to reamalgamate. And I thought maybe that was what was going to happen, especially because we had so much space stuff. But instead of just like kind of depowering him, was like ripping the other extra DNA out of him, was like maybe more comeuppance for such an evil character who's been plaguing the X-Men in the background forever.
And like his specialty is like fucking with the DNA and like the that kind of shit of people. So it's like, it's kind of fitting that it's like it's gonna happen to you now.
Eric, what's the line?
Which one?
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Oh, it's poetry. It's like, oh wait, do I have it here? Hold on.
Play it
again. It's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
I forgot I had that. Let's talk about this is probably going to be before we get into the cliffhangers. Magneto going through his trauma in his mind in this ship that's sort of filling with water. And Xavier being there to sort of help him through this whole sequence. Magneto doesn't really know who he is. He's just so overwhelmed by everything that's happened. Like he's lost in his own mind. And to have this friendship go through this all, and Xavier being like, I won't leave you even if we drown here. Like it's such a powerful moment. What do you guys think of this sequence?
It's classic. Like that's classic Charles and Magnus. Like that's what makes that friendship as powerful as it is. And it's the reason why in that first episode you can see that kind of Magneto trying to uphold their friendship to its higher standard. It's because of this kind of stuff that you don't get, you don't see, you don't feel, but this is a way that we can see and start to feel it the way that they feel it amongst each other. Like it's beautiful, it's powerful, but like somebody who's watching from the outside will just be like, I don't get it. Why they are such opposites. They're enemies. Like he's trying to fuck with his stuff and he's trying to fuck with his stuff. And like, how are these two actually friends? And when you have these little snippets into this window of them, even if it's just like this is a metaphor of our relationship or whatever, like something that we can see and visually feel, we get to have a little taste of that relationship and understand why it's so strong, why it's so binding.
I don't know.
So I thought,
sorry,
yeah,
I don't know if it was intentional, but obviously a lot of the people who wrote the Marvel comics back then, a lot of them were veterans, and I think this is one of those things where they didn't realize they were writing it, but it was like, but for the fact that there are mutants and they are mutants, they could just be best friends.
Yeah,
and in a lot of ways, like. It's that sort of, but for this war, those two soldiers would be best friends. They're on opposite sides. That guy's German, that guy's American. No war. They can just live their lives and they could go be best friends. But because of the state of things, because of whatever, they have these powers and all it. So they are trying to hold on to their humanity by being best friends. So if they can resolve this other thing, it's great. But because they're always put in this position of, well, I have these powers. I can't not do something. I have how many times, great power, great responsibility. I have to do something. We have to act. We have to protect these people. Magneto's trying to sort of protect mutants in a different proactive way, right? The professor's very reactive. Well, but for this war, they could just live their lives and be happy, but it sucks. They can't. And that's the reality. Like that's not just their reality. That reflects our reality, right? But for all these other things, we could just live happily.
For sure. Hawk, just
I don't know what else to add to that. It's great.
That's fine. That's
Too deep?
Perfect. Perfect.
I loved how it was just basically two men in a cafe, and that one trying to basically one was really afraid to tell the other and that about what they knew and that
it's so queer coded. It's amazing.
Very much so. But you can see how hesitant Magneto would have been at first, and that it's like he went through the Holocaust, survived the Holocaust, and that when they hunted down Jews, and that, and now it's like a new form of discrimination that that he's already kind of feeling the pressure of, and that's why he doesn't even like talking about it with him in the bar. And then the whole thing with his collapsing psyche and that, and the water images,
and the boat, like the people that keep him afloat are in a boat that's just outside. Like that's the symbolism is amazing, and that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, what did they say about dreams about drowning? Not having enough time.
Oh, that hurts. Just
never drowned in a dream before.
Yeah, me neither. And I hope to never, because.
I think like the whole like Magneto's arc there kind of sums up, I think, a lot of what's happening in the whole season of like people losing themselves and finding themselves. Storm identifies herself with her powers. She loses her powers. Cyclops identifies himself as the leader of the X-Men. He kind of loses that, and like everybody's trying to, and a lot of it's not resolved. Like we didn't get this clean ending where it's like, okay, Rogue's over Gambit's death. Wolverine's gonna be better. No, it's like none of it is resolved. Everything sucks.
Yeah.
I love Charles's talk with Scott and Jean at the beginning of that, and why he did this, why he gave Magneto and that. And he's like, you were my first students. I knew you would have leapt over a cliff if I asked you to, and that. And if I asked you to be the leaders, you would. It's like, I wanted to give you that choice and that. And Scott saying, it's like, when did we ever really have a choice in that? It's like this. It doesn't matter. It follows us wherever we go, and
Yeah.
we'll always come up back to it.
I think that's the writing they probably wanted to do back when they had the Madeline, when Scott goes off to be happy because they wanted to
Mhm.
write him out, and then they brought back blah blah blah, where it's like Scott couldn't have ever made that choice. Scott couldn't have stayed away from the team. He would have saw one news article and been like, fuck, and then
Yep.
he would have been back on the team.
Yeah,
but
for
they
sure.
never did that, right? Just the way like Cap had to go back in time to be able to have his, because if he'd have stayed in the present, he would never stop, right?
For sure.
These guys just can't stop.
Mm.
So good.
Where to go? Some other things we don't need to discuss it. I loved seeing Iron Man and Captain America trying to stop President Kelly from sending off the Magneto,
The nukes.
the nukes. I thought that was such a brilliant way to show a voice of reason with another comic book character, someone that we're definitely going to see in the future, which I love. But the ending, the exploding asteroid M, and then having Cyclops and Jean shoot way off in the future. They get to meet a young Nate and a really old Rachel Summers, which is also their daughter, who we saw in an earlier episode as a cameo, which is crazy. And then we see the other half of the team, or at least what we see, except for Morph and Wolverine.
Yeah.
We don't see them at all.
They're presumably in the present.
Maybe. We'll see.
If they're in the past, that's gonna be weird.
Yeah, you never know. We see the rest of the team meet up with a young En Sabanur, aka Apocalypse, and he's outside of his city, which looks like what's his name's dome in the Ant-Man movie.
Kang.
Kang?
It looks like
Looks
Kang's.
like Chronopolis.
It looks like
whatever it's
Chronopolis,
called.
which is insane.
Well, Immortus has a brief cameo in the original series.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are thinking that we're gonna see Immortus. I think because of what happened, where they fought, like they're probably not doing Kang at all anymore. We probably won't. Maybe we will.
I hope.
Maybe they'll do like the original version of Immortus, the crusty old white guy.
They just
and we'll go through the
cast
whole
someone
story.
else. Cast someone else. That's all.
Well, I mean, it's a cartoon, so it kind of doesn't matter. and
Oh, I
it's
thought you were
not
talking about
even-
live action.
No. I just meant it's a crusty old white guy in the cartoon. So maybe they'll do it because it's also a totally separate universe from the MCU anyway.
Yeah.
So it kind of wouldn't matter if they want to eventually bring it over. I also don't think we're going to see this group of X-Men in live action.
Oh, I don't either.
Like I think we'll see X-Men in live action, obviously, but like people are like, oh, it can cross over. It's like, no, we're not gonna
I
get
hope
it's
not.
too complicated. It's too like even with Kelsey Grammer doing the voice again for Beast, but he looked like the cartoon Beast at the end of the Marvels. It was like
Yeah.
That's just because he was animated. Like that.
yeah, like it doesn't mean anything. Like it's an infinite number of universes, so none of it,
Agreed.
it don't matter.
What do you think of this ending though? The future.
Sick.
That's a crazy storyline. I love that. Like that was a crazy one.
It guarantees us an A plot and a B plot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is how you write good stories. So when A plot is boring or they grind to a halt, you go to the B plot. So we're going to jump between them. It's going to be real cool.
I like the Cyclops and Jean storyline. I remember from the comics, but I don't recall them ever meeting a young Apocalypse in the comics. So that's sort of new to me.
Jean and Scott sort of raise Nate in the future,
But in different bodies.
But they're in different. They're in someone else's body.
Yeah,
though, is
yeah.
The weird thing.
Yeah.
Because that's how time travel usually works in X-Men. Is you're in your body. Right? That's the whole point of Days of Future Past and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Kitty Pryde didn't go back in her body when she went back.
And I guess Cable and Bishop don't either, but
Yeah.
sometimes they do. Like Professor X and Wolverine always do, and Jean and Cyclops do. I don't know.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
It's whatever they want it to be, baby.
Anyway,
Oh.
the last thing I want to talk about is there have been talks with the directors of this series. What are their names? I met Yonemura and Chase Conley, and people are like, if X-Men live action was ever offered to you, would you take it? And they're like, we can't say anything.
Oh,
But
okay.
you know,
Wasn't
if
someone
the
ordered-
opportunity came, why would we say no? But we can't say one way or another or anything because nothing, you know, they're attached with Marvel.
So we did get the Hunger Games screenwriter Micah Leslie
Mhm.
is supposed to write a new X-Men movie.
Oh,
That happened today or yesterday, I guess. That's the news, is that they've hired someone to write a movie.
that's nice.
Great.
I mean, I have no problem. I would love them to take this style because I think they choreograph action really well. I think they understand the limits and extensions of the powers. I think they would be a great.
I think I would just prefer make more of this show.
That's true.
I don't think if we can have this show, if we can have one or the other, I'd rather have this show than a live action X-Men.
I would agree with that, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. I'd prefer more episodes of a second season of this show than them to just immediately okay.
Yeah.
Like, because you think like with the speed that they're going at it to try and it's like, oh, it's popular again. Let's get it out there. No, take your time.
Yeah.
Always take the time.
Or else you're just gonna fumble and it's just gonna be Dark Phoenix all over again.
I also hope that, because we're supposed to get a Spider-Man cartoon, right, with Tom Holland voicing it and all that. In between we're not going to get another Spider-Man movie for a little while because presumably they have to get someone to write it, and then write it. So maybe we can just have that. Just like, okay, give us some cartoons to keep us going while you figure out what fucking movie you're gonna make.
I would
so
be
it's
down
not
with that, to be
terrible.
honest. I would love that.
Like I don't. People want X-Men in the MCU ASAP, and it's like, it's okay. Like, wait for it to be good. The MCU was good because it took so long. All this stuff, good stuff takes time.
I don't want them in this phase. I don't want them in this phase.
I don't think I want them in the MCU as the MCU exists. I think we gotta restart. I think it's actually got to restart. I think we have to have Battle World with no
Yes.
X-Men, and then we have, okay, here's Earth 616 in the movies. Let's start whenever, it's the 90s, it's whatever era you want to do, and now, okay, let's do it.
I wouldn't
Because, holy
mind
fuck.
seeing Battle World with the 90s, like the Fox X-Men. Right? And then that's how...
Sure. Yeah, bring James Marsden back so we can have a fucking good ending for him.
Yes!
And
And let Halle Berry do something. Let her do something.
Yes.
Right?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, because we've had Colossus a bunch. He'd be great. I'd love to see. Well, maybe that's how we should end. Who do you want to see in live action X-Men? Right?
What's your team?
Yeah, 5 members.
Iceman, Cyclops,
Yes.
Jean Grey,
Yes.
Storm, and
Beast or
Beast.
Angel. Okay.
That would be my team.
Hawk.
I want.
Hawk is in his mind palace.
I know.
constructing a team. Okay.
Definitely, definitely
Okay.
Cyclops.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely Longshot. Because
Oh, damn!
I loved Longshot when I was a kid. It may have been a crush. I don't know, but I used to collect Longshot all the time.
I mean, Longshot's awesome.
Longshot was awesome. Ooh, 3 more. I don't know.
I mean,
Marcus?
it would be their first. It would be their first class.
Oh,
Wait. How awesome was it that we saw the first class outfits in the last episode? That killed me. That was so
Yes.
sick.
So my brother was like, "Why did they do all this? Why did they change outfits?" I'm like, "Because all their outfits are fucked and the mansion's ruined."
Yeah.
So Wolverine grabs his brown suit. Cyclops gives his costume to his son, so he's got to
Yeah.
wear a different thing. Everybody's got to wear a different outfit because all their clothes are fucked.
Oh, Marcus, did you figure out your team?
Well, okay. So Cyclops and Beast and Rogue are on there. I think I'd want to see. Oh,
I sort of want to say Nightcrawler too. I love Nightcrawler.
I really want. I want more Gambit. I want some Gambit, and I don't know. I want Emma Frost. I want more. I want a better.
Yeah.
I want better Emma Frost.
That's a good
Yes,
call.
I like that.
Yeah.
Having an X-Men
Wow.
team without Jean Grey, I like that. I like when Emma
Oh,
Frost
for
and
sure.
Jean were.
I do not want the Jean Grey. I don't want the Jean Scott part of it, and I don't want any Logan Scott Jean. I don't want any of that. I don't want any of that.
I like
want,
that
like,
none
a-
of us
a
have said
different-
Wolverine yet. I do appreciate that.
Oh, I think that
Because
the
we-
whole point is like we can get away from that and create our own.
We've had
I
too
got
much. We've had too
yeah.
much of them.
Yeah. I've got 2 more additions. I want Havoc.
Mm,
Oh
Yeah.
yes, Havoc's
Yeah.
awesome.
a good
Havoc was-
Havoc, 'cause
Havoc,
they
yeah.
fucking ruined him in first class.
I also want
Oh
a
yeah, I forgot about
good.
that.
I want a good Ileana Rasputin in that. And,
Magic?
Damn it.
Yes,
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
I was
Magic
gonna
and
say, okay,
Colossus. Mm.
Yep.
because I
Yeah.
want Magic and Colossus,
Ileana.
but I want X-Force.
Oh yeah.
X-Men. So I want Cable.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I want Bishop.
Yes.
I want X-23.
Oh, X-23 would
Yes,
be good.
that's
X-23
another one,
would
yes.
be great.
And I'm gonna go with Colossus and Magic. I would go with Rogue, but I think this is a fucking hit squad. Like,
Get,
so good.
get Anna Taylor-Joy to come back as Magic.
Was she Magic? Oh yeah,
She
in
was. She
Mutants,
was kind of.
right?
She was written awful though.
She was the best part of that movie.
Oh
Which is-
fuck, no! Oh god, I was gonna put Psylocke in there. God damn.
Oh,
There you
Psylocke
go.
would be cool.
That's
We
Steve Braddock.
need
Yep.
Psylocke. Yeah.
She
we
was
barely-
terrible in the movie too.
Yeah.
She barely showed up.
Yeah. Anyway, final thoughts on X-Men 97. Hopes for second season. Like, what do you want to see?
my number one, I want to see Feral Wolverine.
Yeah.
I really want some Feral Wolverine, and I want to see that whole shit go terribly south. I want it to be awful. Yeah, I want it to be bloody and bad.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm also really excited for a different apocalypse from what they've done in the past.
Yeah.
You know, like we've already had, oh, you have apocalypse and everything. Like it's just like, yeah,
You-
it's like okay, great. Like
The younger
I
hopeful
like,
one.
Just getting bigger.
yeah, like let's look into a different version of apocalypse and kind of see where that can go. Like I'm hoping they kind of twist it a little bit.
Yeah. I like that. Like you want him to see. You want to see him go darker. Like you want to see him like when he's hopeful and still wants.
Mm.
Like that's
Well,
what I want to see.
And if that, yeah, and if that's going to happen, I want to see what is the thing, what's the turn, what are the pushing blocks that create that version, right?
Mhm.
Like, yeah,
Oh yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. What makes him? But Apocalypse has always been one of those like unrepentant villains.
yeah.
It'd be neat to know why though.
But I mean, like,
But do we want
well,
to feel
he's
bad for Apocalypse? At any
but
point?
an immortal character, like, you know, I forget where I read it, but it was like the idea of like if you were to live forever, you would eventually just resent and hate everything and everyone and like life
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that a hopeful young version of Apocalypse is like, I have the ability and the power. I can help you. I can create a better future for all of us. And then every time it goes south, him watching it constantly change, constantly shift, constantly get slapped back in his face. Wouldn't you get to a point where like, fuck this, destroy it all, burn it to the ground.
Let's start
Like,
anew. Yeah.
Let's start it again. Let's do
so
this again.
so
Like,
Thanos at the end of Endgame.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Sort of.
yeah.
I mean, I think he's just he hasn't seen X-Men 97, so I'd be a lot happier.
Dave, what do you want to see in the second season?
I actually
Or what are you
don't
looking forward
think-
to?
I was gonna say I think we'll see a whole season without Morphin Wolverine, and we'll just focus on those two. So, but maybe not, because I think at the end of the season we'd be like, oh, Wolverine's waking up. What do I want to see? I want to see some time travel fuckery with like Immortus and stuff like that. I want to expand things a little bit, but not too much. Just the way we got the cameos, right? Where it's like they didn't set up
Yes.
they didn't fully set up Avengers versus X-Men, because this is not Avengers versus X-Men. This is X-Men. So don't bring in all these other characters. It's cool to see these things, but don't make it about that. That'd be cool if it had its own movie or something, but like animated.
Yeah. Their own series. Yes, bring it back.
Man, we're gonna see some weird fuckery in the future. Like, who's still alive? Like we might see like a really old Wolverine. I know it's like 1,000.
It's
Should be like
1,000 years. Yeah,
he should be dead too. But like,
maybe.
I don't know. Like more Bishop. I fucking love Bishop. I always want to see more
Bishop's
Bishop.
fantastic. Yeah.
It's always a good episode when Bishop's there. I don't know. Like it's so. It feels so limiting to be
Mhm.
like, are you going to make an entire season of this? Like how many new characters do we have to bring in then to have all this stuff? So I feel like probably at least by maybe like episode 5 again, we'll have an inciting incident and we'll have to go back to the present. And then
Interesting.
probably maybe we'll have like a cool like first half. It's hey, Ensaba Nur is like a protagonist, and then that turn happens in episode 5, and now the second half is now we got to stop him.
Yeah.
They build him up sort of like the way Thanos is like your sympathetic character in Infinity War, and then in the second half you're like, oh no.
Or
This is a bad guy.
or you get the hopeful in the first 5, and they get snapped in the future, and then we get the bad Apocalypse. And
Because I'm not really
Yeah,
interested in
yeah.
seeing X-Men fight each other. And I'm not really interested in Apocalypse like resurrecting Gambit as Death. I know people like that's a
I like
thing
that.
I just
He
don't
was a
wanna see
good
people
death.
resurrected. I know. I just don't want to see people resurrected.
Yeah.
And we already had Archangel, fuck, dude. We could have Wolverine as a horseman too.
Yeah, for sure. He was a
'cause
horseman too.
Apocalypse can just show up and go, boom. Hey, guess what? You're supercharged. You're gonna heal way faster, and we might skip a whole bunch. So I that's why I don't want to see that because I think it's an easy answer.
I mean, that's one of the things I am looking forward to. I want to see who's four. I want to see who's 4 horsemen are going to be, because Gambit's probably going to be one of them, just based on that ending.
God, I really hope Archangels doesn't get trapped in that again.
But based on what
Poor
Forge
guy.
is, I'm looking forward to seeing the team that Forge builds, because he's building an
Yes.
X-Men team,
I
an
mean,
X-Force
be
team,
cool. Be cool. Well, is it X-Force or X-Factor or what? 'Cause
X
I'd love,
Factor maybe.
give me Havoc, give me Polaris, give
Yeah.
me, give me a bunch of those characters.
Well, it's
Multiple Man.
yes,
Jimmy
Multiple Man.
Madrox.
I love Multiple Man, and we saw him for a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
we could still see Scarlet Witch. We could see Quicksilver, because they were both
Yeah.
off world when this happened. Like, I look forward to that team. I want to see what he does, because they need someone to continue that dream, and that's going to be Forge. I don't know what I'm going to see in the past. I do like the idea of the hopeful one, that hopeful Apocalypse that Marcus was saying. And then the future, if it's them rearing Nate, like building him up and telling him stories about the X-Men when he was growing up, and like they said it during the diner scene.
Yeah.
I grew up hearing stories about the X-Men. I hope that's his parents telling him that, and him not knowing
Yeah.
that it's his parents. I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's it. So I assume we all recommend this show, right?
Terrible.
go.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
don't watch.
didn't get my pick.
Oh yeah, sorry, Hawk. What are you looking for?
Wild card pick.
Havoc.
Mephisto.
Mephisto.
We didn't get it in WandaVision or Loki
Yeah.
or that or anything that, and there it is canon that they have Sven do fight Mephisto, so maybe we'll finally get Mephisto in the new Marvel.
You can shut up all the fanboys and be like, we finally
Yes.
got it. Just leave him alone.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, sorry.
I mean, like, I'm not sure. Like, there was a storyline a long time ago of like Beast going bad.
Oh,
And
Dark Beast. Yeah.
Dark Beast. Like, I would not mind that either.
He could be a horseman.
Ooh.
Because like Dark Beast, like in the comics, I believe it starts with him like trying to figure out something. He's like trying to go after a cure or something like that, and it drives him to a little bit of like madness descent kind of thing, and then eventually that leads to him doing a lot of questionable things, which then morality gives right out the window, and he just becomes a full-on fucking asshole.
It's Age of Apocalypse Beast goes
Oh yeah.
back
yeah,
to
yeah.
616.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and
that's
Like I would,
so
I would
smart.
love, I would love to see like Dark Beast, like a Dark Beast too, because like
They did-
he's always such a calm presence and like a sensible thinking character especially in the animated series as they put him forward, and to see that turn would be really interesting.
And we got to see how strong he actually is in this series.
Oh,
as well,
yeah.
finally.
He fucking ripped
a Sentinel head
Sentinel
off.
head off.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't wait. I hope it's sooner than
That's a-
later.
That's a really good pick.
That is a really good
Yeah.
pick. It is a really good pick.
Because because I remember the first time I ever saw it, it was a comic book where like they were like, and in this future or whatever, and it just showed Beast sitting at a lab thing talking to somebody. Somebody walks in and disturbs him, and he like rips their throat out, and I was like, "What the hell?" And
Oh shit!
it was like a dark version of Beast, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" And I just assumed it was a different character, and then you found out, no, that's Beast. That's just
Beast's just fucked up right now.
yeah, Beast
Oh.
got real fucked up. It's pretty cool.
I
It's pretty
cannot-
fucking cool.
I cannot wait till the second season comes out. Anyways, thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Hawk. Thank you, Dave, for coming and talking about X-Men. Like this was a great episode. You've gotten me way more excited about X-Men, and I'm probably gonna watch another episode after we're done. Or maybe I'll watch Silver Surfer. I fucking love that show too as a kid growing up. Joe Satriani.
I'm gonna start watching Primal because I haven't yet.
What's Primal?
Getty Turner.
Oh yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, it is very good. Very good. Anyway, we'll be back in a couple weeks talking about something. Maybe Godzilla minus X.
Oh, let's make it.
I'll be back. I'll do that. I love that movie.
Okay.
Fuck, I'll watch it 3 times.
He'll have the helmet ready. He'll be just
I will
wearing it the
have
whole
the-
time.
Godzilla -5.
Yes, let's do it. Let's just do it. 2 weeks, we'll talk about Godzilla. I don't think there's anything else in between. Yeah, fuck it. Let's do it. All right. Thank you guys for coming. And thank you out there for listening. We will talk to you guys soon about Godzilla. See you guys. Goodbye. Well, that's it for us this week on Geeks with Kids. If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at podcast@geekswithkids.ca. And don't forget to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/geekswithkids. Follow us on Twitter at geekswithkidscn. Check out our pics on Instagram at geekswithkids. And you can find all of this good stuff on our website at www.geekswithkids.ca. So if you like what you hear, why don't you hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. This podcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, and your favorite podcasting app. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.